Good evening, everyone. This is going to be the longest show I think that I've ever done. It is transfer deadline day. Now, normally with Wolves and transfer deadline day, it's boring and not a lot happens. So we have got some entertainment lined up, and we've got loads of fantastic guests due to come on. Aside from our opening guests here, who is Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone.
Friend of the show, who basically got recognised down the pub.
I did.
And we got Josh, who's
Evening,
another
everyone.
friend of the show and a regular, right, mate?
Yeah, all good, thanks you.
Fantastic. And of course, Jack, who literally is hardcore. Now, Josh, did you go last night?
I didn't go last night now.
See, I never went, and Lucy never went, but Jack, he's hardcore. He's hardcore. He was there. Yeah. Jack, hi, mate.
You're right, mate. How you doing? How is everyone?
Well, all good, all good.
Yeah.
It's the evening after, the night before, Jack, and I think we're going to be talking about the transfer deadline, the incomings, the outgoings, how we're feeling, all that sort of stuff. We're going to be talking and asking questions, obviously, about the situation with Bruno, the squad. But let's kick off with you, Jack, because you were there last night, actually at the ground. What was your take?
I thought it was really disappointing. I mean, it's quite interesting. If you look at the stats, we should have won that game in terms of possession, shots, attacks. But it didn't feel like a game that we should have won. There was no intensity, no urgency, no tempo. There was no tactical awareness. There was no ability to change the game. It was very one-paced, pedestrian. It was like a friendly for the first 75 minutes. And then something changed, whether it was Pedence and Traore coming on. I know a lot of people have said that since, that was the substitution that got us that momentum. Then in the last 15 minutes, we could have scored 3 or 4 goals. But it was just that first 75 minutes is just like, what on earth are we doing? They've let in 9 4 days ago. And we never barely tested the goalkeeper. We didn't put their defence under any pressure at all for any sustained periods of time. It was so boring to watch. We've played all right in patches this season. Against Tottenham, we were really good for 50, 55 minutes. Newcastle was a really tough competitive game and we did okay. Fulham, we were the better team probably. Leeds, we were unlucky to lose. But yesterday, that was as bad as it's been in a long time. Really, really poor.
And absolutely. I mean, I watched it live. I did a live watch along, which was really popular, actually. And I was kind of like screaming at the TV at times. Lucy, did you watch the game?
I didn't watch it. No, I was watching you watching it.
Oh, you were watching me watching the game? Yeah. Well, you knew how I was getting more and more stressed as the game was going on.
Yes.
Yes. And Josh, did you get to watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Where were you watching it?
Went to the Builders Arms just outside of Wolverhampton with a Indian mixed grill and watched the game.
Well, at least you had your Indian mixed grill. I mean, and what were your thoughts on it?
Well, Jack echoed really. First half, it just seemed it was just lackluster. No pace, no go for it, no energy. And it wasn't really until the last 15 minutes that anything really started to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I thought we started well again. I don't know if you agree with that, Jack. I thought we started well. I thought Nunes had a good shot, hit the bar. Pedro Neto cut inside, flashed past the post. And Bournemouth, especially in the first half, it was like 10-man. It was like attack against defence, literally. I mean, and we couldn't break them down. We just needed. I felt like if that Nunes goal had gone in under the bar, we might have probably gone on to win the game 2, 3, or 4 because they'd have opened up. But like they got into 0-0, and for the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half, I was worried Bournemouth were going to take the lead, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we said we started well. We probably did, but it wasn't enough. I mean, everyone knew that, we had to start really well because they were so low on confidence. They'd just lost 9-0. They'd sacked their manager. If we'd have gone 1-0 up in the first 10 minutes, they'd have crumbled because their fans would have gone, oh, here we go again. The interim head coach on the touchline would have been going, what am I doing here? it was crying out for an early goal, and we never looked close. I know Núñez hit the bar, but that's not a great chance, is it? We said the other week after we played Fulham, didn't we? Shooting from range isn't a golden chance to score. If you get it in, it's great, but it's not a gilt-edged chance to score. And we didn't create a really good opportunity in that first half at all. You know, and you could kind of see their confidence was really low. The left back, Zamora, looked really, really frightened at times of Neto, and we never isolated him at all. He was crying out for just a quick ball into Neto, go one-on-one, whip past him and get in behind him, and we never did it at all. It was so slow. We all knew, everyone, you know, we ain't got coaching badges like Bruno, etc., etc. We knew that Bournemouth were going to sit deep and try and keep a clean sheet. That's exactly what they were going to do. And he never at any point realised that was what they were going to do. It was almost like he was kind of waiting for them to make a mistake. That was the one thing they were never going to do last night. They weren't going to make mistakes. They were going to defend, sit deep, block, tackle, head it away. They weren't going to make mistakes, and we were waiting for them to make mistakes, and it just didn't happen. It was up to us to take the initiative and force the game, and we never did. We never did at all until that last 15 minutes.
And Josh, do you concur with that? And, you know, how do you feel, because we're going to talk about it a lot tonight, about Bruno. And I mean, I did the show last night after I did a bit of a reaction after the game, and half of the people on there wanted him gone like now. And then the rest were kind of like 1 game, 2 game, 3 game, or till Christmas. We've got Manny that's joining us now. He's just got back from Birmingham. Hi, mate.
You doing?
We've just literally started.
How is everyone?
We're all good. We just started the show talking about last night. I don't know if I was just saying to Josh, your thoughts on Bruno's tactics, in-game tactics last night.
You asking me?
Josh. I was asking Josh.
Sorry, go on, Josh. Yeah.
I say it's like the first half, whereas when we played Spurs, it was like a C shape round the edge of the box, whereas this time it was like a reverse, whereas we had people in and round, but there was nothing in between midfield and attack. The gap that was there all game long was ridiculous. And then it was like it wasn't until 15 minutes towards the end of the game where they brought Pedence on, and he was in that gap, feeding that gap where it started to work through a bit more. But it was about, like I said, 75 minutes of the gap between midfield and going out wide. We go wide and we just suddenly cut back in, and then for nothing to prevail from it either at all.
I think you're right, Matt. We're just on that. I'm guessing you watched the game, Manny, yesterday.
I was actually at a women's game watching a stream on my phone as I was watching a women's game going on.
Oh, you were watching both?
Yeah, I did watch it without commentary though, so I had no commentary.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a bit strange, but you know, I tried to watch it. But I tell you what, I put a tweet out earlier in the day that we needed to start 100 miles an hour, you know, 50-50s, front foot, go for their throats in that first 10 minutes, set an example, and we went completely opposite. We were trying to play like we were breaking down Real Madrid, you know, and just, you know, I put, if there was a flicks, tricks, step overs, back heels, and a Rabona Cup, we'd win it, wouldn't we? We'd win that. Because I've never seen how many times do you have to cut in to cut back out, cut in to cut back out, and then pass it to the defence? You know, yesterday, for the first time, I've always backed managers. I've always said, yesterday was clueless for me. Forget the possession, forget the shots. We were playing a team that was devoid of confidence. We were playing with a team and fans who look at our lineup and look at Neves and Núñez and Neto and Raul and Pedence and Traore and think, wow, we would love those players playing for us. Bournemouth must have been like purring, looking at our lineup, and then we produced that. Yes, we had chances. Yes, we could have scored. But for me, it was the intent, the mentality from beginning to start. You've got to go for their throats. You've got to almost play like it's a cup final and those 10 minutes are everything. We haven't won for yonks, absolute yonks. You know,
April the 2nd, Manny.
It's been too long, and with that, yesterday was an ideal opportunity to really, even if we'd only won the game 1-0, to be front foot, in your faces, in your throats, and dominating, because we've got the players to do it. And for me, it was a setup, and whatever tactics or whatever situations they come up in there on the training ground are not working. I'm sorry, they're just not working, and that's where you have to look at the manager. Yes, the players missed the chances, and Raul missed that sitter, and Pedence should have done better with that header, or maybe he could have shot. Yes, I agree that, but I just think the intent, there's something wrong with the intent. I'm confused. What system do Wolves play? I am confused.
Well, Jack, you could probably explain more about the system yesterday, because you've been at the game and everything and stuff like that. And what system did you see? Did you feel that the players understood the system? Did you feel that there was a misunderstanding? Is it because of the new players coming in, still adjusting? Because Bruno sort of insinuated to that at the end. Have a bit of patience. We're just getting the players in. It'll come good. We'll make you proud. What do you think on that comment?
I mean, it's empty words, isn't it? Because we're not winning games. Yeah. It's all right saying give us time. We need time. We need players. We need to settle, etc., etc. You still got to produce results, and you still got to win games when you're doing that. Because if you don't, by the time it gets to November, because don't forget, we've got this World Cup break in the middle of the season. So any momentum we get between now and November, we're going to lose that for a month while the players are off playing for their countries or doing whatever. I think they're going for a winter break, aren't they, with the rest of the squad and stuff like that. So, but I mean, in terms of the tactics, I mean, I'm not quite sure what we were doing at times, because it looked like a 4-3-3, but Núñez almost had a free roll down the right-hand side, and he kept popping up in almost like a right wing, always working. I'm not sure that in terms of tactics, whether the players are following Bruno's tactics to the letter and the tactics are awful, or they just don't understand what he's asking them to do, and it's becoming a bit of a muddle. Because Guedes and Neto, every time they get the ball, not once do they take someone and go to the byline. It's always cut inside, play it back. 3 or 4 times in that game, we had the ball on the corner of the box, and 2 passes later, it's back with Collins or Kilman. And I just don't understand why we're constantly working our way back. It's almost like we're trying to walk the ball in and score the perfect goal. I mean, that's great when you're 4-0 up. When it's 0-0 and you ain't won since April, have a go and when you get the ball in the right area, be brave, be positive. I mean, players are dummying the ball all the time. Take some responsibility. Don't leave it for someone else to produce something. You take control of it and you impact the game. There's too many players at the minute that are kind of on the fringes of it, in the shadows of the game, and not stepping up and saying, I'm going to run this game. Neves did that against Newcastle. He absolutely ran the game. Nobody really did that last night. It was all very sort of, I'm just hoping my teammate produces something here, and I'll just make sure he gets the ball instead of me. That's not good enough at this level, because it's not going to get you results. Whatever the system, whatever the formation, it's about players having responsibility.
Well, there was one point, wasn't there?
Just before we start, go on, Dave. Just been announced, Leander Dendoncker on the Wolves Twitter, 4 years as part of the pack. Thanks for your efforts, Leander. So he has gone to Aston Villa.
Well, we're going to come on to Boly and Leander Dendoncker. That means we've got to do another video. Just being confirmed. We're going to come on and talk about the Boly and Leander Dendoncker, because I think we will need to talk about those. So we'll just finish off this bit, because they've been loyal servants to Wolves, haven't they? Lucy, on the points that Jack made about last night, is that kind of how you're feeling as well? Is that the producer, Emma, said that as well last night? It's like exactly what you said, Jack, like they're trying to score the perfect goal, like it just pass, tapping type of goal. And that's what Emma said as well. I mean, Lucy, is that how you feel as well? It's like they're almost trying to overplay, is the word.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're overthinking everything all the time. Just shoot. If you've got a chance of getting the goal, why not go for it? Why have you got to pass it to somebody else just in case they get it? I don't understand what they're doing. We've never done that before, so I don't understand why they've started doing that now. There's somebody a bit further away. So we need to pass it to them because they've got a clearer shot. Nobody's got a clear. If you've got a shot on goal, go for it. A goal is a goal, and that's what we need is goals to get them 3 points. We don't want 1 point anymore. We don't want that. We want 3 points coming from these games. And
Well,
you just get
absolutely exactly what you say. Well, as you can see there on the on Sky Sports, it has been confirmed that he has gone, Leander Dendoncker. So let's and it's also being confirmed now on the Wolves website. Let me just get onto that for you for a second so we can share that on the screen too. And let's see what Wolves have got to say about that. Here we go. Just putting it up there now so you can see Wolves have just announced on their website Dendoncker makes his Wolves departure. They're reading Leander Dendoncker's time with Wolves has come to an end. The Belgian signing for fellow Premier League side Aston Vanilla on a permanent basis. 27-year-old enjoyed a 4-year stint at Molineux. Committee performances, variety of positions made an important part. Wolves first offered the midfielder his role, route into the English game that summer. Signed and settled into the squad under Nuno. Adapted to the formation change and obviously played for Belgium. A change of head coach did little to alter his importance to Wolves last season under Bruno Lage, who utilised midfielder on 32 occasions and watched him back an enjoyable afternoon at Tottenham Hotspur back in February. While the end was nigh, Dendoncker remained involved in the team and conducted himself with the highest level of professionalism and passion for the bad. But that period now comes to an end with the midfielder making his deadline day departure in search of a new challenge.
Full team gone.
I know. Josh, your reaction to the news on Dendoncker and your thoughts on Dendoncker?
As a utility player, he did a job. I know some people aren't keen on him. But I thought in the last few games when he's played in a midfield 3 rather than the midfield 2 he played in last season, he's looked a lot better. I'm just hoping that in the next 2 hours and 54 minutes we see the announcement on that Boubacar Traoré. If not, it's looking like a situation last year where we let Gibbs White go out on loan the last second.
It's actually worse than last year, Dave, isn't it? If you think about it, it's the worst because we had an option of Kundal last year and we've let him go now. So we've let Dendoncker go. That is now, is it too many changes? That's a question we got to ask. Have we lost a lot of experience? We've Ruddy, Hoover, Marcel, Cody, Boly, Sice. So you got Dendoncker and Kundal in the middle, and your 2 strikers are Silva and Gibbs White. So we lost a team. We lost 11 players who were all first-team players last year, and we haven't replaced them all. So
it is a bit concerning. We've just been joined as well by WM's Daz Hale. Welcome to the show, Daz.
Evening. Good timing that then with the Dendoncker.
Absolutely. You've obviously been over on doing your show as you do with all of the West Midland clubs. What's your initial thoughts on the Dendoncker transfer and the Boly transfer from Wolves today?
I think the Boly one, well, it was when and not if, wasn't it, really? And I think it was just really, really... I don't think he's been a fabulous servant to us, but the last couple of seasons, he's been injury prone. He's never really struggled, never really recovered from COVID properly. His performances have never been as good. So I think, thank you very much, Forest, for giving us a load more money. So that's 2 players now that they've taken off us for inflated fees, in my opinion. I wish him well. He was terrific for us, got some great memories. As for Dendoncker, I think personally that it's probably the right move for everybody now. He's been, again, as you said there, terrific professional, and he's a good bloke, he's a good lad. Maybe it's just the right time for him. And I think if somebody comes in and is it 13, 14 million pounds for someone who, wasn't a regular anymore and wasn't going to be, I think it's probably good business. But the point that's just been made there is that we don't want to be left light. And again, this criticism's coming before, hasn't it? Like when Fabio went out on loan and everyone thought, right, there'll be a striker in tomorrow then. and it's taken another month before we've got Kalajic to the door. And obviously we haven't got that sort of time to mess about now. So I would have preferred to have said to Villa, well, yeah, you can have him when we've got our bloke over the line first, then you can have him. Now, they may have done that, and it may already be, the wheels might be in motion, because I'm not aware of what's going on behind the scenes at the moment, but we will be left light again in that department. I mean, especially as he could quite easily have filled in the centre-back position if we don't get one of them across the line as well.
You know what, Daz? That's exactly spot on. And I think probably, and we'll go across everyone, that's the concern. Dendoncker, there's some people don't appreciate what he does for the team. There's other people that do. I've always thought Dendoncker was very sort of underrated in our midfield. He does a lot of work off the ball. Yeah, he's got a bit of a gangly style, but he never, ever didn't give 100% in everything that he was asked. He stood in, at full-back. He stood in at centre-back. He's played various positions across the midfield. I think they had him playing up front at once. He's always given everything. And you don't get in to be understudy, basically, in the Belgian national team to De Bruyne if you're not very, very good. At 27 years of age, he's still got his best years ahead of him. He's got 12 months left on his contract, I believe. So, 13, 40 millions, not bad. But the concern I think I have is that it leaves us light again if we don't bring in, what's his first name, the new Traore person? Boubacar Traore. Mane, your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think the first news I heard was David Ornstein, who's quite a tier one reporter on Twitter, who said that there's a move lined up for Dendoncker, but it depends on if Wolves can get a replacement, and the one that they're favouring is Boubacar Traore. So initially we thought, okay, we're looking for a replacement first before we got rid of him. So this has been going on all day. So like Daz says, have we got Traore over the line? Have we got it over the line? And now the move has been confirmed at 8 o'clock, because pretty much the deal for Dendoncker seemed to have been struck quite early today in terms of, the fee was agreed and the medical, the personal terms. So I am now in that situation where you're pretty much expecting an announcement, because we're playing 3 in midfield, remember. So we're playing all our midfield. We're playing everyone we have. I don't agree with playing 3 in midfield. I think Núñez and Neves are good enough to play as a 2, and we should have another person supporting the striker. But, as soon as we did that last night, it improved us. So that's my issue. We're playing everyone. We've got Connor Ronan. They've actually mentioned that Connor Ronan, they've mentioned it, and you're thinking, yeah, the lad's a really good lad, but are Ronans and Mascaras, are those the people we now call on when we're struggling? So we have to bring someone in, and I'm sure they're working hard trying to bring him in, because they've been linked long and hard, and whatever the extra money is, in the end, they probably will have to pay it, won't they? Because they seem to be like a problem with the fee with Wolves and Mets, and they the player was willing and the club want him, so do the deal, No,
absolutely. This is the concern. That's what we got into this situation last year, where we've got our midfielders. You get one injury to any of those 3, and we're struggling. Ain't we, Jack?
Yeah, no, we are. I mean, it's kind of, again, we have advantages of having a very small squad in that everyone has to be ready to play. You've not got people kicking their heels, waiting, not even getting on the bench and moaning to their agent or to the rest of the team. So I get why we have a small squad, but we're only ever one bad injury. I mean, February, March time last year, we looked like we were an outside bet for the top 4. And all of a sudden, Neves and Kilman and Semedo got injured, and we ended up finishing 10th. And I think that's a crucial part of it. We lost those 3, probably our top performing outfield players for that last 2 months of the season. And we didn't have the depth of squad to cover it. I mean, we're always going to struggle if we get injuries to key players. Everybody struggles. I mean, when Liverpool lost Van Dijk for a season, that lost 20 points. So, and it's the same for us. If we lose Neves for a long period of time, we're going to drop points. If we lose, Neto, or we lose Kilman or Collins, or we lose Sarr, example. But I think there's a couple of points to make on Dendoncker. I think number one, you mentioned it he's got a year left on his contract. And he's probably not in the position where we'd be desperate to offer him a new one because he's not going to be a regular player under Bruno. I think that's kind of obvious, isn't it? So getting 13 million in for him, if that funds the Traore deal, that's what Fosun are going to do. They're an investment group. We sometimes forget that because we have this romanticised idea that chairmen are philanthropists and they'll just throw money at it and, if this player costs this money, we'll let you have it. They're an investment group, so the deal has to make sense financially. So if they're looking at it and thinking, well, in 12 time, he'll be worth nothing because he's out of contract. So if we get 13 million now and that funds a player that's more suited to how we're going to play and the manager wants a little bit more, then that makes good business sense for us. So we'll do that deal. And I think like the guys have said, we don't know whether the Traore deal is already under wraps and done and they're just waiting to announce it, or whether there's little bits to do, or whether, like we said, it could go wrong and we end up a player short. And I think the other thing to say as well, we talked at the end of last year, Dave, about sort of this squad, and we said it's gone a little bit stale. It needs a refresh. Well, that's what's happened now. Cody, Sace, Ruddy, Marcel, Hoover, Silva, Gibbs, White, Trincao, Boly and Dendoncker today. That's a big, big chunk of that squad that have moved on for different reasons. Some were out of contract, some we've cashed in on, some wanted to go. But it's certainly been the refresh that we were perhaps talking about. And it's a big, big call for the manager as well, isn't it now? Because there's none of this idea that he's still working with Nuno's players and Nuno's team. A lot of them have gone now. There's only Neves left from the promotion team now, and that was only 4 seasons ago. So all of a sudden now...
What odds would you have got on that, eh? The only
you would not have had odds that would be the case.
Ruben Neves, yeah.
Dave said that on the phone in earlier, didn't you, Dave?
Yeah, that he'd be the last man standing. It's like from that squad, you would not have put money on it being Neves, would you?
Well, they've kept Neves by the looks of it. They've
Yeah.
kept Neto, despite the Arsenal fans trying to find a way of chewing him out the door. Martinho signed a new contract.
Yeah.
It looks like Adama Traore is staying as well, unless anything happens very, very quickly now. So I don't think anyone would have predicted any of that before the window opened.
You know what? You're not wrong on in regards to that. I'm amazed. I thought Traore would go on deadline day, and I'm amazed no one's come in with a 5 million, whatever it is, for it. But like, if he's going to stay, Bruno Lage has to use him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, we've got a 6'7" centre forward now. So much as it's easy on the eye to watch the nice tippy tappy, let's play inside, let's try, get the ball wide and get it in the box, get it in the mixer for your 6'7" centre forward to get on the end of. If you think a lot of the Raul's goals when him and it was Traore, I don't know how many assists he had that season before COVID. That's what they need to do, because the current way they're playing isn't working and it's too easy to defend against. So it's no good getting a 6'7" striker in now and asking him. He can play with his back to goal, but he wants the ball delivered early in the mixer and quality delivery. So that's, for me, that's what they've got to start doing now. But I'm not so sure he will.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna throw this out there now. When we're talking about Dendoncker, we'll go on to Boly in a bit, but let's talk about Raul, because we've got Kalajic that's come in, and I'm going to go round all the guys on the screen at the moment. Start with you, Lucy. Would you start Raul or Sasha, the new guy, against Southampton at the weekend?
To be honest, I think I'd start Sasha. Raul doesn't seem with it at all. He's not the same player he used to be. He doesn't seem to be playing the football that he used to. His mind's gone. I don't know what's happening to him. I really don't.
Are you referring to the chance he had last night that probably 2 years ago he'd have put that in the back of the net?
Right away, yeah. Yeah. It's as if he can't see where the goal is. It's really strange to watch now. Really weird. And I don't like to say that because I love him. I think he's class as a person, as a player. But to see him decline the way he has from what he was, it's such a shame. Really, really is.
No. What about you, Josh?
I'll probably stick with him, start the game on Saturday. And then bring Sasha on at some point. Would be my opinion on it.
So you'd start the game with Raul. Jack?
I mean, it's a difficult one because we sometimes forget just what Raul's been through in terms of the injury. And I've known people, friends who have had traumatic head injuries, and it changes your personality. It changes you physically, but it also changes you psychologically. There was a moment yesterday where I think it was Mepham, the Bournemouth centre-half, was down with a head injury, and Raul looked really, really worried and anxious about it. And you could almost see he was having flashbacks and kind of thinking, and I think there's been a change in Raul's personality on the pitch since he came back from the injury. He's a lot more frustrated, a lot more hot-headed. You could see that at times yesterday. He was sort of throwing his shirt over his head when he was penalised, and there was, arms going up in the air when the ball didn't come and things like that. And I do think he's changed, and whether we as a team can kind of adapt to that and kind of go, it's not the Raul that we had pre-COVID and pre-head injury. It's a new striker, and we've got to work out to get the best out of him. Whether we can do that, or whether we say, actually, to have him in the squad is fantastic. He's a brilliant guy. He's a great ambassador. But Sasha's the guy now, and we're going to have to play around Sasha because he's having a 6'7" centre forward. Encourage you to play a certain way, doesn't it? And we're going to have to do that. Like Daz has just said, get it in the box early, get those wing backs overlapping, and get those 2-on-1s out wide and get the ball into the box. If we can do that, then this guy will score goals. And I think with Raul, it's a case of we've just got to manage him now. He's not going to be the player that he was pre-injury, but he can still make a contribution if we use him properly, is what I would say.
Absolutely. Manny, your thoughts?
You know what? When did football change? Why is it always that only one striker must play? Football always used to be 2 full-backs, 2 centre-backs, 2 midfielders, 2 wingers, and 2 strikers. None of this. I blame Venables with his Christmas trees and Hoddle with his sweepers. I blame them. They changed, and then Arsene Wenger came in. Football was simple. Play Neto, play Traore, and sometimes play Sasa and Raul together. Raul likes to drop deep because he likes playing like a midfield Harry Kane type of role. Sasha is obviously a box man, loves to be in the box. So we could play that. You could play Podence off Sasha as well. So we've got options. Nunez and Neves as a midfield 2 should be good enough to play in the midfield.
Would you play a 4-4-2?
I would only ever play 2 men in midfield because they're good enough. And because our defence is the second best defence in the country right now. We've only conceded 4 goals.
So you're looking at either a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3.
I would have easily conceded another 2 or 3 goals this season if it meant we actually scored another 3 or 4. Play both. Play 2 wingers. Play positive on the front foot. We need to bloody win a game. The previous way we've played has produced nothing. It's produced dour, sideways, crab-like football. And we need to go on the front foot. Play them together. Say to Raul, I'm not dropping you because Raul, guess what? You scored against Preston. You scored against Newcastle.
He busted good to get onto the end of that cross.
You scored against Newcastle. Yeah. Yes, it was disallowed, but you scored. You should have bet. He could have been on 3 goals in 3 games. Raul could have.
And he should have had the penalty as well if he
not playing well. So let's be honest. He's got competition now, and sometimes we can't play both when we come up against the Man Cities and we come against. But we've got to back ourselves. We've got quality players. Collins and Kilman have been outstanding. Semedo, is a very good fullback. Johnny is very capable. We've got 2 of the best midfielders. People purr looking at Nunez and Neves as a partnership. So play them as a partnership and have Moutinho on the sidelines to come on and play. I don't know where football changed. Football was very simple. Play more direct. Get the balls out. Get the crosses in and have 2 men in the box, not bloody 1, 2.
Well, that was back in the day, the traditional way Wolves played exactly like that, wasn't it? Daz, we talked about this a little bit earlier on BBC WM. I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, I'm with Manny, but I don't think Bruno is, unfortunately. No. So I think there's certainly a case for Raul to be in there with Sasa, but I can't see that happening in the short term. And I think you're right. I mean, he's actually not scored a headed goal since he came back. And that's no coincidence because his game has completely changed. But he's a very intelligent footballer. Perhaps he is struggling a bit at the moment. And people have said, oh, it'll give him a kick up the arse. He don't need a kick up the arse. There's nothing wrong with the way he's in fact, he's perhaps possibly even trying too hard at times. Might even take a little bit of pressure off him if he hasn't got that on his shoulders, that he's got to be the main man. But I personally, if you can only play one, I think we've just spent all this money on a centre forward who we can't score goals. For me, you start with him now because I think it will give the crowd a big lift as well on Saturday, because that game now it looks absolutely enormous, doesn't it? Rightly or wrongly, it's been perceived as, you know, a huge game, not just in our season, but in Bruno's as well.
I think Bruno Lage knows this, and to be honest, you've got to go for it at the weekend because he desperately needs goals. He desperately needs wins. And, you know, if we do get the win against Southampton, we're on 6 points from 6 games. That's 38 from 38. That's about enough just about to stay up, because what you don't want to be doing is getting to the international break and being dragged into cut adrift, which could happen. And if you cut adrift, then it becomes a lot harder. You know, we've got so much talent in this squad. I still can't really think to myself that we're going to be in a relegation battle, but no team is too good or can think themselves they're too good. You've got to scrap, you've got to work, you've got to make sure you finish your chances. If we can start finishing some of these chances, it takes maybe one goal, maybe a lucky deflection or something, and to get the win. You could see against Newcastle when we were winning, they were getting deeper and deeper because they were like, oh, we need to win. And then that mentality, they got drawn back and then we nearly lost it. I think once we get the win, they've got that kind of off their backs, we might go on a run. I mean, I know we've got Liverpool and City, so they're kind of free hits. But you never know with Wolves. We play well against, we've beaten City twice when they were champions. You know, we gave Liverpool a game. You know, this is under, you know, Bruno last match of the season. If Dendoncker had put that chance away at 1-0, we'd have been 2-0 up. But it is a concern. But I think the idea as well that you're right, Manny. I think that there's no reason why. I think you bang on. He does like to drop like Kane, doesn't he? He likes to go for the ball.
He's never in the box. When the cross comes in, he's never in the box. I like Núñez because Núñez breaks his neck to try and get in the box. Raul's never in the box. And when he's in the box, he doesn't make the right moves. So having another striker there takes the pressure off Raul and says, actually, you can drop deep. You can play like a bit of a midfielder and take the ball off Neves and play. And maybe it'll give you a bit more confidence. You can play those intricate 1-2s. Remember, Raul, at his best, he had Jota next to him.
Yes.
He ain't got him anymore.
Yes.
And now he's on his own. And we're expecting him to score all the goals when he's had the injury and when he's not the same role as we used to. Give him some support. The guy can still finish. He's still a good player. He's got lots and lots of Pirates costumes ready to use. Let him use them.
We can't wait to see his next goal celebration. Let's just talk a little bit about Willy Boly now. Whilst we've got everyone on the on this, Willy Boly again. He's gone today. He's gone to Forest. He did drop himself out the squad at the weekend, which I was a bit disappointed with. But he is quite much loved. You know, Lucy, your thoughts on Boly going?
To be honest, I'm a bit 50-50 with the moment. I loved him, absolutely loved him, but what he did on Sunday was a big letdown for the club itself. You know, you're in the team and not just not turning up. It's not good enough. It's simply not good enough. I don't like that.
Paid a lot of money as well.
Yeah. Just letting everybody down.
So he kind of down tills a little bit of the week. And that I am a bit disappointed with that. Josh, your thoughts and your memories from Boly?
He's been a brilliant player for us until his leg break, where he did miss after, ankle break. He had Istanbul Boly, as I always call it, that night in Istanbul when he scored that goal. I mean, even the first day in the Premier League when he scored with his shoulder, not his arm, his shoulder, wink, wink, against City. But it's one of them, like Lucy says. Thank him for what he's done, but if that was me at work and I turned around to my manager, I'm not coming in today, I don't want to. I'd be on disciplinary straight away. You can't, even in football, you can't do that.
Yeah, that was disappointing, wasn't it, Jack?
People say, sorry, go on, Jack.
Go on, Manny. You jump in. You can.
No, I'm just saying people have compared our striker that we bought because he had an issue where he didn't turn up to training. But there was a difference. Our new striker, Kalajic, actually notified the manager of his intentions. Right. So if you ring up to work and say, I'm not coming in because my head's not right, I've got this move, I just don't think I'm going to be able to perform for you, then at least you've told the manager. Boly just didn't turn up, apparently, according to what.
Right.
There's always two sides to the story, you know. But that can't happen. You can't just not turn up. You know, there's other teammates, there's young kids, there's, you know, who are relying on you being there and not turning up. What type of message does that send to the rest of the dressing room? And why would a player not want to turn up and not notify his manager? So then people start talking. Is there something wrong with the dressing room? Has Bruno lost the dressing room? All these rumours come out because of these incidents, you know. So it was a huge moment, that was. And I loved him like everyone else. Istanbul was one of our best nights we've ever had, you know, and a brilliant win. And remember his goal at Wembley against Spurs set us off to a 3-1 win away there. And he was just a colossus, very relaxed, sometimes too relaxed on the ball, you know. He'd lose it and turn off and switch off. But again, I think he was on the way down anyway. So we'd replace.
He's 31 now as well, isn't
he?
I
think his performances were on the way down. We've replaced them at the right time, him and Sice. We've got Collins and Kilman, arguably, potentially, can achieve anything in the game. So, you know, I like Totico Gomez as well. Shame we couldn't get this Craig Dawson deal done because that all collapsed last minute. Would have been nice to have an older head in amongst four very young centre halves, you know, just to sort of.
You want about Dawson from West Ham, is it?
Huge, yeah. So Bednarek, you know, the deal to West Ham collapsed, and he went to Villa. So West Ham pulled the plug on Dawson coming to us. Now we've pulled the plug on Mosquera going out on loan. So, you know, big merry-go-round. I think that would have been a real big addition because losing all these players, all the players we've named, Jack named earlier on as well, they're all experienced pros, you know, the Dendonkers, the Bollies, the Sices, the Codys. Losing that out of your dressing room and left with lots of young lads, it's, you know, the manager, it's a lot for the manager to get around everybody. So people like Cody were key, people like Sice were key. They could get around players, couldn't they? And they could G up players and be their buddy, and that is a concern for me, not having that experience in the dressing room.
Absolutely. And Jack, you were going to come in on that point.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of everyone says. I think it was the right time to move Boly on. I think he hasn't been the same player since injuries, and he's had long COVID, hasn't he, as well? And that obviously has affected him physically, like we've mentioned. Again, out of contract in the summer, probably wouldn't be offering him a new one if we're being honest. So get the money in now and reinvest that in the team and in different players. I think Totti Gomez had overtaken him towards the end of last year. He was exceptional in the couple of games at the end of last season, particularly away at Liverpool. So, I mean, he's dropped down the pecking order, hadn't he? And players don't like that. You know, we all should absolutely love playing for Wolverhampton Wanderers. It's the best club in the world. Players don't want to be sat on the bench or don't want to be, like we've said earlier, kicking their heels. So I think for everyone concerned, for Boly, for Wolves and for Nottingham Forest, it's a good deal all round. In terms of memories, I remember the first away day in the Championship at Derby when there were two strikers pressing him and he flicked the ball over both their heads, went round the other side and brought it out of defence. I thought, we've got a player here. And he could have played that whole season. His flip-flops, couldn't he? He was so comfortable at that level. And he stepped up as well when we needed him to in the Premier League. Yeah,
nearly lost him at the end of that season because he got some issues domestically, I think, with his brother, hadn't he? And there was a lot of talk that he was going to go back home, and then thankfully things got sorted out. It's just a shame because you know now that when he does come back to Molineux, some people will boo him because of what happened last weekend. And it's a shame that, and I know there's been a debate about, Bruno Lage shouldn't have outed him. Well, I have no problem with it. If somebody ain't turned up and disrespected you, then why should you protect them? And it was the same thing, really, although he did refuse to play. It was with Hennessy after he'd had all his injuries and Wolves were in League One, and then he refused to play at Gillingham at the just before the January window. And he said he wasn't in the right frame of mind and he didn't want to get injured before his transfer. And it just sours it, doesn't it? But I think it was the right time. We've got good money for him. And but again, it's just that lack of experience. And again, the departure of Dendoncker, I said before, he could have filled in a centre back. If we don't, I mean, there's talk about Denier. It was a free agent, so they could still get him, maybe. But again, you just look as if the balance of the squad perhaps isn't quite right at the moment. We've got a lot of good players in certain positions, but we're still lacking that midfield enforcer for me. And at the moment, before 11 o'clock, still lacking a little bit of competition as much as covering the centre of defence.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you in a second on Boly, Daz. I just want to say we've got young Jess in the green room who's going to be coming on and talking. Hold on. Oh, right.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought you were doing some breaking news there, Dave.
I thought the producer she just wants the link for the show. Hold on a sec.
We're a letdown, Dave.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? But it's Emma just wanting the link for the show. Hold on a second. I'll just send her that. I was just about to say that we have young Jess in the green room. We've got loads of guests coming on. Hopefully, we've got Don Goodman coming on. We've got Tim Nash. We should have a bit of Liam Keane. We should have a bit of Steve Madley as well. Should have Mark coming on. We've got loads. So I'm going to, as we go along, we'll rotate.
I'll duck off because I've got to go and get my tea now as well. I've got back in. I'll tell you what, I saw Nash here at Blues a couple of nights ago. Check out his suntan. I reckon he looked, and I thought, when I thought it was David Dickinson initially.
David Dickinson?
Yeah.
Dad, so I was going to ask you. Did you hear any bit more about the Boly incident? Did you sort of?
No. It's as you were. It's what you were told, and I'm just glad he got through his medical because I don't think that was quite straightforward either. Hence the delay in him announcing it. But he's obviously eventually passed it. That would have been awkward if he'd have failed his medical and had to come back with his tail between his legs. But whatever, they've found a way of getting him through it, haven't they? But it's the right time. But look, thanks ever so much for inviting me on, and hopefully I'll be able to come on again soon. Really appreciate it.
No, brilliant, Daz. It's great to have you join us, and I appreciate it. Catch you later, pal.
Enjoy your night. See ya.
Bye, Dave.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
As you might have noticed, we've also been joined by our international correspondent. looking.
The entertainment
Jackson,
for the night.
You're over in Marbella, aren't you?
Yes, I am. My sins, and I do beer, so I apologise now. What happens,
mate? It's great. We love your sense of humour. We've been talking just about the first of all. We've been talking a little bit about last night. We'll come on to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about the transfers of Boly and Dendoncker. I thought might be an opportunity for you to give your thoughts on that and your memories, and whether you think it's the right thing or the wrong thing for the club and players at this point.
Well, I think it's been a fantastic transfer window all round, and I did joke on Twitter that this is the best transfer window since we signed Jeff Thomas, Kevin Keane, and Davy Kelly, and it's the truth.
What a week that was.
They are better than the players that have gone out, and they're better than the players that we had. So our starting 11 is better. Have we got the depth there? Arguably, with these players going out now. But look at the players they've sent out. Dendoncker, Cody, Morgan Gibbs-White, Boly, the scapegoat for the last 3 or 4 years. And that's exactly what they are. And you know what? It's true. Because these players individually have been hounded, Morgan Gibbs-White, etc., etc. And I just think that we've got arguably a much, much, much better starting 11. There isn't a bottomless pit at Wolves. They've been quite honest with how they do the transfer business. It's not a bottomless pit. We can't just spend 100 million and expect every player to stop in. You know what? We're not Man City. We're not Liverpool. We haven't got a squad of 18 first teamers. That's not the way it works. So I think Wolves fans have got to be a bit more grateful. All I can see on Twitter at the minute is moaning. The same moans that we had 2 or 3 months ago. The squad's not big enough. We haven't had a big enough squad for 4 years. I get it. I understand it. But you look at the players that we've signed. Yes, listen, I was first to criticise the performance against Bournemouth. Yes, it wasn't great whatsoever, right? And it wasn't. However, give this team time to gel. You know, we can't keep signing players and then keeping Boly, who's going to be worth nothing at the end of the season, keeping Dendoncker, who's going to be worth nothing at the end of next season. Listen, it's been a fantastic transfer window. Are we as bulked up as we like in depth? No, we're not, but we never have been. So let's enjoy what we've got. And if a deal has to be done for Dendoncker today, 13 million is good money. For the money that Nottingham Forest allegedly have paid for Morgan Gibbs-White is absolute daylight robbery. Listen, it's good. It's true. It's good business. Dave, it's good business.
It is, yeah, I agree with you. I'm smiling. I'm just thinking £45 million for if we get that.
We ain't getting that.
No,
I mean, it's at least 35 million. They reckon for a player that's unproven in the Premier
It's a
League,
huge fee.
who won't sign a new contract. Is a good deal, isn't it?
Players we brought in: Wedes, Collins, Nunes, the Sasa the other day. Listen, we've made the signings everybody wants. Oh, we should have kept Cody in case we need to go to a back five. Well, guess what?
About
Cody doesn't want to bench. Guess what? Dendoncker doesn't want to play on the bench. They don't want matches. So they're not going to stop there. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to be good around the dressing room. Connor Cody isn't going to be the player he was, going to be the influencer he was around the dressing room. If he's on the bench, he's not.
But Manny, you're going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, Jace, look, I don't think anybody complains against the quality of people we've brought in. They've astounded me, to be honest. Guedes, Nunes, Collins, and now this Kalajic, all highly rated, all sought after, all linked with much better teams than us. And Wolves to get those deals over the line, hats off, kudos to Wolves to that. I think where people are saying is something like the midfield, Jace. Last year, we knew we were short, and as soon as Neves got injured, we dropped like a stone. Now we've put ourselves in a position where we're playing three in midfield, which I don't agree with, because I think Nunes and Neves are good enough as a two. But we're playing three in midfield, and we've got nobody. We have got nobody. So our next port of call is literally Conor Ronan, isn't it? If we don't bring anybody in, I'm pretty sure. I'm still hopeful we bring this. The real Traore, I call him. We bring him in, at the last minute, and we bolster that. That's the only area for me that I look at and think, Neves goes down every game holding his ankle because he's just 100 miles an hour. If we lose Neves, Nunes, or Moutinho, that's it. We're bare bones in the middle of the park. When we're bottom of the table as well, near the bottom, we're struggling. We need the players. So that's my concern. It has been a fantastic window. It was 10 out of 10, but letting Dendoncker go without bringing someone in, just brings it down, a notch for me. What did he just show? He just showed something. I don't know what it was.
What did he do?
Really important tonight that I'll come on, and she decided to put the parasol down. It was not me, that was all. So at least the kids aren't screaming.
Yeah, no, Jason, do you want to come back on that? What Manny's just said, because I tend to agree with that. I tend to agree with that point. Is I get what you're saying, and people on Twitter we're stressed. They're stressed out because they think, okay, we're bringing players in, which is great, but then we end up with the same level of squad. And if we get injuries, we're going to be in the same boat. Have we not learnt anything? And this year we've got 5 substitutes that we can use. So you need a deeper squad.
Yeah, listen, of course we need a deeper squad. My argument isn't that we haven't got a deeper squad, because as I said, for the past 4 seasons, we haven't had a particularly deep squad. My argument's been, it's been a great window in that we brought in a better starting 11 that we had originally. Yes, it'd be great to keep Leander Dendoncker. And do you know what? He's an underrated player. I think he's a fantastic player, breaks up play well. But you go on Twitter, and because he's not firing him in from 30 yards, and he's not playing 50-yard cross-field balls, Dendoncker is a very, very good player. I'm disappointed to see him go, but realistically, 13 million for a player with a year and a bit left on his contract.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good deal.
It's a good deal. I've got people arguing me on Twitter. Oh, we should get 25 million for him. So my
There's
argument,
no way you're getting 25 million for a player with a year left on his contract.
okay, that's great. If you had 25 million to spend, would you? No, there wouldn't. We've got to be realistic, right? Good player. I don't think he's going to. He clearly doesn't fit the system that Bruno Lage wants to play, right? Yes, the depth does concern, but it's never been any different. If we do go to a two midfield, obviously, and Matinho doesn't start.
Breaking news, by the way, I'm hearing that the Boubacar Traore deal is done from my sources. I don't know if
it has been agreed, yeah. The fee's been agreed, and that was the thing that was holding it back. The personal terms and the medical wasn't an issue, apparently. It was just the fee. And I think the Dendoncker,
I'm hearing
the Dendoncker sale. I think the Dendoncker sale is pushed it. I think.
But there you go. So we've got nothing to worry about. So there you go. It's the best transfer.
Happy days, yeah. Let's all party.
It might be a loan initially.
All we need now is Wolves to sign Kevin Keane, David Kelly, Jeff Thomas, and we're going to win the Premier League.
And if you've got the league table, just turn it upside down with Champions League.
Champions League, man, he's exactly right.
So
I said yesterday. I said, here's some cheer. We've just gone 3 games unbeaten.
Well, that is a positive. We have gone 3 games. You always look on the positive side, but we'll have to keep a close eye on the. Well, I mean, it's going to be confusing with 2 Traores on the field, but hey ho, maybe they'll get on and they'll link up quite well because it looks like Adama Traore. A Traore to Traore would be quite nice, wouldn't it? But we'll keep an eye on that as and when we get some more official news.
Just on that, Dave, I have seen something as well, just saying a loan with an option of 11 million.
Yeah, that's it. So it is a loan. Wolves like to do business like that with a loan with an option, not an obligation.
You know what? Let's be honest. If we've agreed 11 million for a younger, quite an exciting midfielder, and we've got 13 million in for our older one that was at the end of his contract. That's fantastic business.
That's good business.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if that's the worry, wasn't it? Okay, Dendoncker's gone. We've got Conor Rowan as our backup, who's a talented young player in himself, and I hope he stays around the squad this year and gets some game time because I think he's definitely got something, and he's been out on so many loans. Maybe seen some of the goals that he scores as well. He does shoot, but if we can get this other Traore in as well, then that kind of everyone goes okay with Dendoncker. That takes the steam and the sting out of that. And I think because of previous transfer windows that's gone out where Wolves have kind of had this happen, it's like, oh, and then we've got no one in. That's why everyone's panicking and worrying. But clearly the deal looks like it's been done. We'll keep an eye on that. Jason, on the Traore side of things, not on the Bruno side of things, where are you sitting with Bruno at the moment?
Listen, I think they should give him time. The worrying thing is we was probably expecting Bournemouth and Southampton to be winnable games, especially as Bournemouth conceded 9 at the weekend and we struggled to break them down. We've got to be realistic with that. Yes, I know bar and all this. If you look last night at, and I'm not comparing Raul Jimenez to Haaland, but if you look at Haaland, his best goal was the one he got in front of the keeper at the near post. And we haven't got players that do that. And that's the difference. Haaland's got more to his game than getting at the near post, but he gets where players won't. He works really, really hard. And
he knows where it hurts. He's so strong as well, isn't he?
Unbelievably. And we don't look like we've got players that can do that. Hopefully this Sassak will be the difference. With Raul Jimenez, and I'll make this point now, I don't know why he's messing around with this eye patch and this flipping telescope. And I've heard there's a parrot coming on his shoulder. It's ridiculous.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you going to bring out a parrot?
That was the next thing, wasn't it?
They Preston in the League Cup, and he's messing around with an eye patch. What's going on? And then he scored the other day, and he got disallowed, obviously VAR, and he's looking for his. Come on, listen, ridiculous. If 2-3-0 up, and you know what, we're challenging, and he's got 30 goals that season. That's a different kettle of fish. He hasn't proved himself this season, nor last season. I know get it. There's too many distractions for him. Why doesn't he just focus and knuckle down and settle on scoring goals? And you know
I'll tell you what, we've got a lethal striker that's just joined us. Lucy, is it all right if I drop you off just for a little bit, Bab, so I can get step 6 on the screen, and we'll bring you back on in a little bit with Jess.
Okay.
Is that right? We've got Mr. Don Goodman.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, Don. Much appreciated. Obviously, Wolves legend, Sky commentator, and we're just literally talking about the Wolves of the transfer windows just going out, and we're just talking about the state of play with Wolves at the moment. Obviously, you will watch Wolves and keep a close eye on things. You've just heard what Jason's saying. We've got Manny, Joss, and Jack, all passionate Wolves fans as well. What's your take at the moment, Don?
Well, I only got the back end of what Jason was saying, to be honest. So I don't know who Jason was talking
Raul.
about.
He was talking about Raul and Raul doing these crazy celebrations and you know what's happening, and people are like umming and ahhing, and we need to know where's the Raul gone, or is he going to come back?
Well, it's very I mean, look, I think obviously I don't think anybody can doubt or question that he's not the same player that he was before that horrific injury. There's definitely a lack of confidence. The chances that he had and missed last season when he came back into the team would highlight that. And I'm not particularly talking about headed opportunities. I'm talking about when he was through, a little bit like last night when he had the 1v1 with the goalkeeper and he just dragged it wide. I think the Raul pre-head injury would have stuck that away without any question. The hope is that he can get back to that. But then there becomes a question of when sentiment has to be put to the side, really, because I think a lot of sentiment and empathy was shown to him last season. He kept his place despite the fact he wasn't scoring, wasn't playing well. And now, of course, we've got a new 6'7" striker who's going to put him under extreme pressure, because you kind of look at the way Sasa Kalajdzic plays and you're not really sure that it's going to be Raul and Sasha in the same team. It might be one or the other. So I guess really that's the conundrum for Bruno Lage. But look, I mean, going back to last night particularly, I didn't see the game. I saw the highlights. I saw the opportunities that Wolves had that came and went. Bournemouth, if I could have had one bet in football before a ball was kicked this season, it would be that Bournemouth are a shoo-in to be relegated back to the Championship. I remember I did the Wolves game at against Newcastle on Sunday, and I said to everybody around me that that playing Bournemouth, I'd start worrying if they weren't able to beat Bournemouth. Well, they didn't beat Bournemouth, so now I'm a little bit worried, really, because it's okay performances being reasonable, but this lack of creativity and lack of ruthlessness in front of goal at that level, it is going to bite you on the backside, because the Premier League now is stronger in depth than ever before. It's the best Premier League we've ever had. And I'm not talking about Liverpool and Man City. I'm talking about the quality of the likes of Brighton and Crystal Palace and teams like that, that are just so much better than they've ever been before, really. I mean, look at what West Ham have done in the last couple of seasons. Look at what Wolves did in the couple of seasons before that. So there's probably, I'm going to say 15, 16 really high caliber, good teams in the Premier League. And that's what makes me just worry a little bit for Wolves at the moment, because obviously we know the fixtures that are impending in the next 4 games, 4 or 5 games. I think Southampton has become a massive game now at the weekend, almost a must win. And if they don't win, or if they fail to win, if they don't play really well and they're really unlucky not to win, then I think Bruno probably in a little bit of bother, really, in terms of keeping his job, to be honest with you. Going into a run against the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, West Ham. It's a tough start to the season, it really is. But at the end of the day, they need to show a little bit more than they've shown so far, Wolves.
John, why do you think players are playing like that? Do you think it's instructions from the manager? Do you think it's because they haven't won for so long? Is it confidence? Like against Newcastle, we just went deeper and deeper and deeper. and obviously, not hitting the target, not finding the net. And it was only really the last 10 minutes of yesterday when Pedence and Traore, we went a little bit direct and we looked a bit more threatening. So is that players on the pitch, or are they going with the manager's tactics? What do you think?
No, I don't think the tactics are terrible. What I would say from the Newcastle game is they created so many fantastic situations in the final third, as in counter-attacks, and they just picked the wrong pass or the execution was poor. And those situations are the kind of situations that the top teams end up scoring a goal with. So there is no question there's a little bit of a lack of confidence in the foot in terms of sticking the ball in the back of the net. It's so good up to that final third, isn't it, really? And then it just seems to peter out. And as I say, that's a combination of confidence. It's a combination of decision making, when to pass, when to dribble, when to shoot, when to cross, where to be. And those decisions are the decisions that define the difference between a decent player in the Premier League, a good player, a really good player, and a world-class player. Is that the world-class player, you look at Erling Haaland, they make good decisions constantly. I mean, you look at the few touches that he has in games, and yet he's banging in hat-tricks because he knows where to be, and he knows it's not by accident. If you just watch the way that he moves and ghosts into those areas and almost anticipates where that ball's going to be. I mean, look, he's out of Wolverhampton Wanderers League. Let's have that right. We're never going to get an Erling Haaland, but you can try and find something a level below and develop him. So, yeah, it's for me the decision making, and I don't know whether or not it was the same last night. Whether they got into good situations and didn't make the right decision at the right time, find the right pass, make the right run, shoot when they should, dribble when they should, cross when they should. These are all the small details that ultimately end and influence what kind of a result you're going to get.
I mean, Don, jump in with a point there. Haaland's hat-trick yesterday. He's unplayable. And I said before you come on that his best goal was the one where he got at the near post, put it round the keeper. It didn't actually look that spectacular, but that's a real striker that gets himself in that position and puts the ball in the net from that angle.
Yeah, so how many goals he's got? He's got 9 so far. And I'm going to say at least 6 of those 9 have been real sort of poachers goals, about knowing when to run, when to stand still, how to finish, what kind of a finish. It's just a phenomenon, to be honest with you. It's quite scary, really, that in his first 6 Premier League games, he's got 9 goals. The irony is, I think pre-fractured skull, we all would have probably had Raul in the top 5 or 6 strikers in the world, with maybe just a level below your Harry Kane and your Lewandowski and players like that. Obviously, Haaland was just breaking through. But as an out-and-out centre forward who could hold it up, running behind, was mobile, good at pressing, great finisher, Raul was up there with the best players in the world. He really was, the number 9s in the world. But it's just really unfortunate that injury. I mean, prior to the injury, he was flying as well, even in that season, wasn't he? Started the season super well. And you just can't legislate.
Is it a mental thing, Don? Do you think with Raul? Do you think
Don, didn't you suffer a similar injury?
Yeah.
So
yes, I fractured my skull. It was a different kind of a fracture. Mine was a depressed fracture of the skull.
Mentally, how did that affect you?
No, it didn't really. I don't think I was ever as in danger as he was of never playing again, or as in danger as he was of a bleed on the brain causing more problems, i.e. how he lived the rest of his life, let alone played football. So I was very quickly reassured that, everything was under control. I was told how the skull would heal, and that in actual fact, my skull after 6 to 8 months would be stronger than it was before I'd fractured it. So mine was more on the top of the head. Raul's was more on the side of the temple here, which obviously you could imagine is a little bit more delicate. I understand that there was a little bit of a bleed. as well. So it was always going to take him a little bit of time to get his head round. I mean, but then there are things that happen, aren't there? So in training, before I got to play again, I was still wearing a skull cap. I remember a ball was blasted at me, and it was either going to smash me in the face or I was going to go like that and turn my head.
Yeah.
And I probably wish I should have let it smash me in the face, because I've got a face for radio anyway. But I turned my head like that, and it smacked me right where the fracture was, knocked me off my feet. All the lads came sprinting over to make sure I was okay, and I was on the ground laughing, because I knew in that moment that was my test. You know, that was the sign that I was going to be okay, and I could stick my head in where it wouldn't matter whether I clashed heads again. I could stick my head in where the boots were flying around, and knew that I was going to be okay. So I'm not sure really whether Raul has had that test, or whether just the nature of his fracture was just so very, very different to mine that it still maybe plays on his mind. But it never ever played on my mind after that training ground incident, really. But clearly he's had time to rediscover this form. You know, we're not talking that he's only had a few weeks. He's had plenty of time to get up to match sharpness, to reintegrate, and he just hasn't looked the same player, which is a real shame. And the wish and the hope is that something just clicks for him, whether it's the pressure that the new striker will apply for a place in the starting 11. Maybe that'll spur him on. I don't know, but you just hope and you pray that he can find something like his old form.
And Don, obviously, whilst we've got you here, I know you've only got a little short period of time, and we're really grateful for you giving up your time to come on the show. So much appreciated.
No problem.
Your thoughts on Wolves' transfer business so far? This as we're coming into the last 2 or 3 hours, we're hearing that there is a loan deal for the other Traore from Metz that's going to be done with a view for, I think, 11 million. Dendonka's gone out today. Boly's gone out. You've seen all the rest that's been happening the rest of the season. How do you think Wolves are coming out of the window compared to when they started?
I like what they've done. I've got to be honest. I do like what they've done. It's a shame that they couldn't get Craig Dawson over the line, because he is the kind of centre half that the Wolves fans would absolutely adore, wholehearted. But I actually like what they've done, and I do think Mateus Nunes is going to be sensational. From what I've heard about him, there have been early signs of the quality that he possesses. Guedes did super well for Valencia last season, so it might just take them half a dozen games just to settle into the Premier League. And of course, the games that they're going to go into after the weekend, they don't really get much harder, but that's the nature of the Premier League, really. It's almost like sink or swim, and it's definitely, if you stand still in the Premier League, you actually go backwards. So I do think these signings are good. Let's see what Kalajdzic can bring. It's going to need service, but the reports that I'm getting about him are all really, really positive. I was disappointed. I've got to be honest with you. I was disappointed, having seen a lot of Morgan Gibbs-White last season, that they didn't keep him, because I think he gives you something different to all the other players that they've got at Wolves. I think he gives you something just that little bit different in his unpredictability and his little flicks and his tricks and things like that. I do think he's matured. I think he's grown up. I thought when he broke through at 18, I thought he was immature. You know, he bought the big car, the flash jewellery, all of that, and very, very quickly came back down to earth with a bump. But what I saw of him last season, and when I bumped into him and spoke to him, was a much more mature version of Morgan Gibbs-White. So I was a little bit disappointed, actually, that Wolves let him go. It's not 42 million, it's 25, and it will become 42 million if he goes on to play for England and Forest survive in the Premier League and all of those things, you know. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But on paper, in general terms, I like what Wolves have done in the transfer window. But paper very, very quickly needs to be transmitted into reality, doesn't it? And it's how quick that Wolves and Bruno can get these players up to speed and instill a bit of confidence into them. Because, to have only scored 2 goals in the first 6 games, when that was the problem last season, despite the personnel being different, It was only the 3 relegated teams that scored fewer goals than Wolves last season. That was the massive problem. Maybe it's one of those scenarios where once they get a couple in a game, that the confidence will grow and they'll start being really competitive and more clinical in front of goal. Because when you do get chances in the Premier League, you need to take them, because it is the best league in the world. It's a strong league. As I said, there aren't. I would actually go as far as to say, for me, Bournemouth are probably the only, what I would have perceived before last night to have been easy game to win. Really, I think the rest they've got their hands full, but they are more than capable. So it's about keeping the faith, watching over the next 2 or 3 matches to see how they compete, and hoping for the best, really. But on paper, I do like what they've done.
And Jason, were you going to come in with a point there a second ago? You were going to?
No, only about all. I mean, for me, Don's quite right that there was a few distractions off the pitch for him. But the offer that Forest put in, yes, I understand it's 25 and it could grow if they win the European Cup and they win the Premier League. A lot of these additions that won't be met. But I think it was good business overall for a player that's been Premier League. But Don, quite I do agree, because I think there was a player there that we hadn't perhaps seen the best of. And when we played at Leeds' first game of the season, and he looked a completely different player to last season, and that clearly worked. You know, playable. And I would like to have seen him realise his full potential for shirt, but when money comes.
And Jack and Josh, before Don has to go, because we've only got him for an extra couple of minutes, is there any question for Don that you want to put to him before he has to shoot off?
Yeah, I'd just ask Don, in terms of the new striker, he's obviously 6'7". How important is it going to be that the team play around him, and how important is it going to be that he adapts to the style that the team want to play? Has it got to be a mix of the both, or is it going to be a case of, now we've got this big guy, we put the crosses in early, we change how we play to suit him?
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think one of the positives of this particular striker is that he's come from the Bundesliga. Now, I think the Bundesliga, in terms of its intensity, is possibly the closest thing that we've got to the Premier League. It's still not at the same level of intensity, but it's more intense than Spain or Italy or France, you know. So the Bundesliga, and he's done it there. So you hope that he won't be completely shocked at the intensity of the Premier League. I think what mustn't happen is that when Wolves get the ball, they just go route one. And your hope is that doesn't happen, because that is just old school, doesn't work. And I don't think it will ever work again, really. So it is about manipulating the ball into those wide areas and getting decent quality crosses into the penalty area that he can go and attack. I understand that for a big fella, he's good with his feet. He's relatively mobile from what I understand. And it will be a case of both player and teammates adapting really to each other. And that's the key, isn't it? How quickly can that happen? But as I say, the biggest thing for me is that the players on the pitch avoid the temptation, just because you've got a big lad up there to go direct. That's yesteryear. That's gone. That ship has sailed. That don't get you success. But having said that, getting the ball into wide areas and getting good quality crosses in, that could bring a bit of success.
And Josh, anything from you?
So the only thing I thought of, like your years watching the Championship, who would you say has got more of a chance, like midfielders or strikers wise, coming from the Championship in the next few years? Because you've had the likes of Maddison, you've had Gibbs White, who I think will do well now in the Premier League, even though he's left us. Is there anyone else you reckon that can be touted in the next few years, like Jared Bowen and the likes of that?
I saw all of those lads come through. And actually, if you go player for player through the England squad, most of them have spent some time in the Championship. It is a wonderful, wonderful breeding ground. Even Harry Kane. And actually, by the way, I got to confess, I never saw that coming, because I thought he was useless at Norwich and Millwall. So I don't know what happened, to be honest. But obviously, he's turned into one of the best strikers in the world. There are always hidden nuggets. I wondered whether Wolves would consider Ben Brereton Diaz. I watched him live last night again. I've always been impressed with him. from the start of last season, really. He's a prime example of, what we're talking about when we talk about Raul and confidence and players and confidence. Well, he started last season like a house on fire, and it's on the back of this Chile thing. Him going to play with Chile, with some world-class players, and actually understanding that he belonged there, and actually believing that he can mix it with, Brazil and Argentina, and he's on the same pitch as Messi and all of these great players, and holding his own. So, I was really impressed with him. He scored a really good goal last night, and it was never in doubt when he went through. There are always absolute gems in the Championship, and I question why more Premier League clubs don't go and get them. The Blackpool winger has just gone to Forest, but they've loaned him out to Olympiacos. That's because they can't fit him in the squad because they've signed 20 odd other players or whatever. So, but he's one for the future. Isaiah Jones, the right wing back at Middlesbrough, very good. Very impressed with him. I mean, there's so many. There's so many really that you could go through. The Championship is just settling down. It's early stages, but there will always be players that are playing in the Championship that are more than good enough to come into the Premier League. There's no question about that. You just look at how well Ivan Toney, for instance, has done. Look at Mitrovic at the start of this season. People said he couldn't play in the Premier League. I said, you're having a laugh. The previous time that he was in the Premier League, last time he was in the Premier League, he scored 3 goals, but he'd had a fallout with Scott Parker and he only started 12 games. The time before that, he was a regular starter and he got 11 goals in a really poor team.
Yeah.
And this season, he's got a better manager with respect to Scott Parker than Scott Parker, who's playing him in the right way, who's playing to his strengths. Fulham are a much better team than they were the previous twice that they got promoted to the Premier League. Because if you recall, they won the playoffs. So they were finishing 4th and 5th the previous twice. This Fulham team was exceptional last year. Rivaling arguably the Wolves team that we know, I say, is the best Championship team I've ever seen that got promoted. Fulham would have pushed them hard. So that is the quality that Fulham and Marco Silva have got. And of course, Mitrovic, he's now going to go on. When they said he couldn't score in the Premier League, to me, it was people that hadn't seen him. To me, it was lazy journalism. People that really weren't thinking about it. They were looking and go, how many goals did Mitrovic get in the Premier League? Oh, 3. He can't do it. Just lazy journalism, I think. So, there are always nuggets to be had from the Championship, but unfortunately for Wolves, I think it's not necessarily an area that they would, with the George Mendes influence, you're always going to be looking at foreign players mostly, aren't you, to be honest with you? I'm not sure how much I like it, but I think for some of the amazing players that he's trekked Wolves fans to, we kind of forget some of the duds that have been and gone already. I don't forget them. I know they're there. But yeah, look, I don't want a team full of Portuguese players. I don't want 11 Portuguese players representing Wolverhampton. I think you have to have a broader
church.
Yeah.
Final question, Don.
Yeah.
Before you have to shoot off, where do you think Wolves will eventually finish this season? Are you worried about being in a relegation? Do you think we'll be, come the end of the season, we'll be well clear? Where do you think we'll actually end up finishing?
Well, I think if they fulfil the potential, then top 10 for sure. But that would be me being optimistic. At this moment, if you can't stick the ball in the back of the net, you can't win games of football. And I look at, the Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, West Ham even games coming after Southampton. And I kind of feel that the Southampton game it's almost a must-win game, really. And they're another one, they can blow hot and cold, Southampton.
They've just signed Ainsley Niles from Arsenal.
Yes. Yeah, he's decent, but I'm not sure that he'll improve them massively. But what I do know about Southampton is on their day, they can compete. And on another day, they can get blown away by 9-0. So it depends which Southampton you get. But as I say, if you can't stick the ball in the back of the net, then you're not going to win games of football. So at this moment, probably more on the back of last night than anything else, I would be concerned about what's going to happen, really, given the impending fixture list. But with optimism in my heart and self-belief, I do think that they have a squad that is good enough to be getting into the top 10 of what is arguably the strongest Premier League ever.
Absolutely. Don, thank you ever so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. It's really appreciated. And hopefully we can get you back on again in the future. And you do a great job, by the way, on the commentating on Sky and all the stuff that you do. So I know.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. All the best.
Yeah, brilliant.
Cheers, everyone.
Just breaking, Dave. Wolves officials have flown to France to get the medical done for this Boubacar Traoré. So he's in France, and that's where the medical will take place.
Fantastic. Well, we're joined now by Scott and, of course, Mark Rhodes as well, who's you're a busy bee as well, aren't you, Mark? You're either performing or travelling or doing something. So thanks ever so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure. I'm actually in my bedroom at the moment, so I'm not doing much, Dave. But I'm listening. I'm listening and watching to you lads, and yeah, I'm a bit happier now we've signed Traoré. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I did see your Instagram story after yesterday, Mr. Rhodes. You weren't a happy bunny.
I wasn't, and I shouldn't do that really, because I've had time to just relax a little bit after the utter shambles of that performance. But yeah, it's, as Don Goodman rightly said, he said Bournemouth are probably the worst team in that division, and we've got to be beating that team coming off the spankings that they've been having. So yeah, I was very disappointed. I've had time to digest it though, and be a bit more chilled about it all.
Brilliant.
Well, we were talking about it earlier on. We were talking about, I think everyone after the game was, there's quite a split. And we're going to ask Scott the same thing in a second. Where do you sit on Bruno right now? What's your, are you kind of like...
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because you've got to cut the bloke some slack, because, he's had to bring in these players who are world-class players, let's be honest. Like, you look at, on paper, if we play a 4-2-3-1, in my opinion, which is the way we should be going, I think we are probably the 7th best team in that league, like on paper. But it can't just be on paper, and he needs time to gel. But in the Premier League, you don't have time to gel the players. Like with this new lad that's coming, you've got to start him instead of Jimenez, unfortunately, because I really do believe that Jimenez is not a Premier League striker anymore. And I feel so bad saying it, because he has been a wonderful servant, and all the things that he's gone through. You watch him against Bournemouth 2 years ago, he's scoring 2 goals and we're winning that game very, very comfortably. And, I know it's a confidence thing, and I know it's a shame. But we've got to look at the long term here. And for me, a 4-2-3-1 is the way to go. 4-3-3 was not the way to go against Bournemouth, and that is on Bruno, unfortunately. But he's still learning this league. I think we've got to give him at least 15 games. You can't be making these assumptions that we've got to get a new manager in after 5 games. Even though
there is an argument, because I have to be pedantic on these sort of things and push back with the argument. There's an argument that's saying the last 15 games we've won 1. We've out of the last 40 something, we've had 20 clean sheets. We've taken something like, I don't know, less than 10 points in the last. We haven't won in 12. On that sort of argument, where do you kind of sit on that? Because that that was last year, but last season we've not won since in the Premier League since April the 2nd against Villa, and what a win that was as well.
Yeah, it was a huge win, and also that should have been the catalyst to us possibly getting into the top 6. But for more than a few reasons, we dropped like a stone afterwards. I think, yeah, you are right. I think we can only judge him on this season if I'm being perfectly honest, because last season weren't his players. He's got rid of Dendonka, he's got rid of Cody. These are all new players. He's bought in his new players. The problem is that a lot of Wolves fans are seeing the same old problems with just better quality players, and that's down to the manager for not putting them in a formation that's going to get the job done, and that's down to Bruno. But I still don't believe that we can judge him yet, because he's got his own players now. After this transfer window's done and dusted, and I think Southampton is a massive game, as Don Goodman was very correct in saying. I think it is a must-win, actually. Can you imagine, Molineux, if Southampton score the first goal? Because we've all been there and we've seen it turn. And if it does turn...
And go very, very toxic.
Very toxic indeed. And that, I think that's going to be very difficult to come back from, especially with the fixtures that we've got coming up. If we don't get a win against Southampton, I think we're in trouble. And I think that's a lot of pressure on this new lad that's coming for Jimenez, because I think he will play instead of Jimenez. I think we need to play him, but we need to play the right formation. I think, I don't know what you guys think about Adama Traore playing now, because we've got this 6'7" lad in
I think he has to play.
I think...
Manny, you go with Traore.
I tell you what, you bang on the money. Yesterday, I was as frustrated as you. I just didn't do an Instagram story about it. But honestly, I was, because there's no way we should be playing 3 men in midfield against Bournemouth. Yes, we're now looking at Saturday as a must-win. Last night was our must-win because it was the easiest Premier League match you will ever have. You know what? There was a Bournemouth fan, and he says, when I read the team sheet and I saw Núñez, Neves, Neto, Raul, Podence, Traore, they were like, we might as well go home because we're not. And they walked away with a point. The setup from Bruno was completely wrong. And when he brought Traore on, Traore fired 3 really good crosses in.
Yeah,
with no movement in the box. So for me, he is the only one in our team, even with Neto. Neto cuts back, cuts in, cuts out, cuts back. He doesn't get to the byline like he used to. So Traore is the only byline player we've got. And if you've got a 6'7" striker in the box, you have to get to the byline. And if Traore hits 5 crosses long, he might just hit the 6th one on top of his head and we score a goal. So he's got to play, I think.
Well, we've just been also joined by Scott, who's somewhere in a dingy alley. I'm not sure where. We've got Jess, who's our Wolves women correspondent, who's going to be talking a little about a team that can score goals. Women and the transfer thing, and of course, we've just been joined by Tim Nash. I just want to quickly go round because we haven't heard from Scott or Jess just yet, and then come to you, Tim, if that's okay, and bring you where we're at. Scott, thanks for joining. Whereabouts are you, by the way, mate? You're not homeless, are you?
No, but I'm not in Wolverhampton.
Okay, we sound like we've got a cricket on the going on as well. You're not in Wolverhampton.
No.
Where are you?
Undisclosed location.
Okay, that's okay. Undisclosed. You're not outside of Compton somewhere, are you? Having a look and seeing what's coming.
No. Let's just say I've gone up north for a bit.
Okay. Well, I think it might be you that's got the cricket on your thing. Scott, quickly, your thoughts on where Wolves are at and Bruno at the moment and the transfer window?
When it comes to Bruno, I don't think he's going to be given the time I would like him to see, because, like I said to you before, Dave, like during pre-season, he was testing out this new system, but arguably some of the new lads that we've got weren't there. They've only just come in now. So he needs time to work this new system with these new lads.
Yeah.
The problem is he's doing it in a period where points matter. And because points matter, that's when he's not going to be given the time to do that job. So I don't know if it was an issue with players wouldn't come to us till now, or if it was just Jeff Shee was not dipping his hand in his pocket as soon as we would have liked. But either way, Southampton's going to be a tough one, because if he doesn't get a result at Southampton, and with Liverpool and Man City on the horizon, it doesn't look good.
Do you concur with that, Jess? Oh, no, we're talking about, you do watch the men's team as well. We will come and talk to you about the Wolves women as well. And Manny was there last night, so he can be able to give some views on that as well. But do you concur with what Scott says about Bruno and the team before we get on to Tim?
Yeah, I think he's been given the players that he wants now. And I think if we don't get points against Southampton, then we're going to be struggling. I think the club needs to give him time to adjust the players that we've got in. I think it was right to get rid of Willy Boly. I think the players that we've brought in, I think we should be getting results. You know, last night, how we didn't win. We should have won from the players that we put up on the starting 11. It's just ridiculous that we can't somehow manage to put the ball in the back of the net. But he's got the players he wanted. He's playing in the formation he wants. So there is no excuses anymore. We need to start picking up points.
People are worried, Scott, that you're in West Brom. I'm sure you're not. Tim,
God, no.
coming on to you, mate. Thanks for jumping on this. You probably are keeping a very close eye. You've had many a transfer deadline day, ain't you, mate?
Yeah, I'm probably a bit slightly more detached than I used to be, because I don't do this full time anymore. I kind of dip in and out. I'm freelance, but I've got a full time day job. So, so I've had half an ear sort of on things during the day, and I think it's an interesting transfer window. It seems to be coming together. I think, as others have alluded to, I think Bruno is getting the squad that he wants, and that includes players in and players out. For me, I hear all the noise on and see all the noise on social media about Bruno. Failure to score and beat a Bournemouth team hammered 9-0 at the weekend. But if you're going to give a manager upwards of £115 million, I mean, to me, it doesn't seem to then sack him, before he's even had chance to get his best team bedded in. I don't understand that logic at all. Maybe somebody can explain that to me, because I'm struggling a bit with that. Whether it's just a knee-jerk reaction of a section of the fan base, I don't know. But for me, I'm if you want to know what I think about the window overall, I'm quite pleased. Honestly, I think I'm quite excited about Wolves. I wish they could score a goal, but I think with a 6'7" striker on board, and with players the quality of Nunes and Collins at the back, and now Boubacar Traore as well. I think the squad has improved, and when I say improved, I think with a sort of rejuvenated Neves and an improved Kilman and Semedo. I can see, some exciting times. I think Wolves will be a good team this season, and I just don't buy into any of the panic and calls for Bruno's head. It's the first window he's had any money, and I think he deserves a chance to get his own team on the pitch playing the way he wants, and for him to succeed, really.
But Tim, Premier League owners, you know what they're like. They panic. They've invested lots of money, and Fosun have done it before, haven't they? They do, surprise you. Nobody really expected Nuno to probably go at the time he did go. So, if you look at the first 6 games, was probably as easy a run as you could have expected to the start of the season, and no games are easy in the Premier League. And even while you're in transition, and even while you're trying to bed in players, you expect the odd win. So the Fulham or the Bournemouth, or you expect the odd win just to keep you ticking over, because that buys you time to build your team. But when you're in the bottom 2 or bottom 3, and we got Man City and Liverpool, Chelsea and West Ham coming, after 10 games, we've got 4 or 5 points. Do owners panic?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course they do. I don't think owners panic as much as supporters. But then again, that's the supporters' job, I guess, to kind of, hit those peaks and troughs. I mean, it's a difficult run ahead for Wolves. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, as they've proved in the past, they've proved very stubborn opponents against the top teams on many occasions under Nuno and Bruno. And I just think, it's the season has only just started, and I just think people need to give their heads a wobble. I wouldn't, you could be a Villa fan or a Leicester fan at the moment, couldn't you? And I just think it's very, very early days. If everything you hear from Bournemouth, for example, the other night, they were just so determined to keep. The only thing they wanted from that game was a clean sheet. They were time wasting after 25 minutes, 30 minutes. That was a massive success for them, just to keep the ball out the net. Yes, of course, you would expect Wolves to do more, but I'm going to sound like a boring record because I've said these sort of things before, but every game Wolves play, every single opponent knows everything about them, and has been trying all week to stop Wolves playing to their strengths. And I do think supporters maybe unaware or perhaps forget just how difficult it is to win a Premier League game, and all the research that goes into trying to stop Wolves doing what they want to do, and likewise, it works the other way around as well. So I probably sound like a really, really boring party pooper here, but sorry, that's just the way I see it.
I don't think that's a boring thing. I think that the thing is, Tim, it's like, I think that the Wolves fan base tend to, like, and especially on Twitter and stuff like that, you have one brilliant win and we're world beaters, you lose a game. I think the concern is going back over since the 2nd of April, this gradual decline, lack of goals. 20 is Bruno Lage has brought in to play this expansive attacking football like he did at Benfica, scoring lots of goals, and to solve the problem that we had with Nuno. And I know he's only, like you granted, he's just starting to get the players that he wants, which is what he yesterday at his press conference. But when you've gone 12 games without a win in the Premier League, the team looks scared. Like against Newcastle, they were just wanting to hold on and win that game, and they were getting pushed further back. We nearly lost it. I think they just need this win, and then hopefully the confidence will come. I mean, Mark and Jack, if you were to bring in one player now before the end of the window, to finish it off, who would you be looking to bring in and in what position?
I mean, I've said for a while, Conor Gallagher. I think we need that kind of aggressive midfielder that's going to play in the hole a little bit. He's a bit like Podence. We have got Podence, but I think Gallagher's a little bit more tenacious, and I think he's got a little bit more in him to track back. Sometimes a bit too much. He got sent off the other week, didn't he, for a couple of quick bookings? But I just think that's perhaps where we're a little bit short in terms of the starting 11. We could bring in an extra fullback for squad depth and a centre half for squad depth, but in terms of that starting 11, I think if we're going to play the 4-2-3-1, like Mark said, I think that position where it's probably going to be Podence at the minute, if we could get a real top quality player in there to play either side of Guedes and Neto and behind Sasa, I think we'd be really good to go for the top 7, top 6.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Jack, to be fair. I was gutted that it looks like Dawson's not going to come, because I think we needed some cover. But yeah, I think behind the striker is where we just need to create chances. We look scared. It's not like we haven't got the players on the pitch to do the job. It's not boring football. It just feels quite pedestrian the way we're moving the ball. It doesn't feel like there's any. We're still a counter-attacking team, and that doesn't make much sense to me considering the players that we've got on the pitch. I know we had 60% possession against Bournemouth. But if you look at the other games that we've played in the Premier League, none of the times have we had more of the ball than the team we were playing against, which is quite concerning for me, because I thought we were going to be a team that was going to keep the ball more with Bruno Lage rather than with Nuno. I think that's the most concerning part for me. But I think Jack's absolutely spot on. I think we need a player that's, I love Podence, but he's very hot and cold. But that, if you've got a 3 behind Sasa, I think we'll be all right. I do think we'll make chances. We just need to put them in the back of the net.
I think that's absolutely. And we've just been joined by the Wolves athletic correspondent, Steve Madley. We're here in the hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us. You're on with myself, Jack, Manny, Jess. You'll know Tim, and of course Mark Rhodes.
If you told me Tim was going to, I'd have said no straight away.
Brilliant. Having Steve and Tim on the same show, hey, it's a coup, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely brilliant that they both come on and, they're supporting the channel. It's really important. Steve, you've probably got your real finger on the pulse right now, looking at what's going on. The Traore deals just seem to have been done. Are Wolves likely heading towards any other signings whilst we've got you on? Because I know you've only got 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that way, Dave. No, I'm told Traore will be the last one of the night, but barring anything really out of the ordinary. So yeah, it seems like the centre back won't be coming in, which means Yerson Mosquera will be staying put, which I guess isn't great for anyone really. It leaves Wolves a bit short of experience, and also means that Mosquera won't get the game time that everyone had kind of hoped he was going to get this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that loan deal was pretty much agreed if they got Dawson in, wasn't it? And I think Dawson wanted to come back because his roots are in the Midlands. But with Villa signing the player that West Ham wanted, that's kind of kiboshed the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm told Dawson wasn't really keen on it. He's got family in the Midlands from his time at West Brom, so he wanted to come back to the area. But like you say, West Ham missed out on Ben Derek, who seems to be going to Villa. I'm not sure whether that's been announced yet. But with that, West Ham basically pulled the plug on the deal, which I don't think will particularly please Craig Dawson and didn't please Wolves. But it sounds like Wolves have decided that all of the other options that they had at centre back aren't really worth pursuing, so that they're going to go with what they've got at the moment.
And Tim and Steve, do you think we're a bit light on the full-back, wing-back positions?
I mean, for me, what we're looking at, Johnny, Semedo, Aït-Nouri, possibly. I mean, Aït-Nouri for me is the one who struggles at most in a 4 because he's not a fullback. He's very much a wing back or a winger. Johnny's the best fullback on the books, and to me, Semedo already looks vastly improved on the player we saw, who struggled defensively in the past. I thought he had probably the best game I've seen him having play against Newcastle at the weekend. Yeah, possibly. I mean, they've always kind of had players who can sort of slot in on those positions, but when you're looking at a 4, it's those roles are probably more defined, aren't they? Is there another natural kind of fullback on the books? Possibly not. They've got 4 for 3 in that Johnny can play on both sides, which is a big asset. I
think all 3 of those that Tim's mentioned, I think are good options. They've all got something to offer, but behind that, there's not a lot, is there? So you kind of one injury away from being down to just 2, and God forbid you get 2 injuries, you kind of down to makeshift options, aren't you? I mean, Mosquera can play at right back, Totti can play at left back, but
Hugo Bueno, then you're looking at, aren't you? You're basically going down to the under 23s,
Yeah, that's why it was imperative, I thought, to get a centre back in, especially losing Boly, because I feel as though we're a bit short with the centre backs as well. You can swap and change these players, but they're not necessarily playing in their correct positions. And for me personally, I thought Aitnery and Pedence, when they come on against Bournemouth, they were our best two players. Like, I thought that they really took it to Bournemouth. I think Johnny has probably had the worst spell of his career at Wolves since we've gone back to a 4. And I'd play Semedo and Aitnery against Southampton.
And Jess, we'll come to you now. We'll talk about the Wolves women in a minute. Have you got like any questions for Tim and Steve before we go around the table whilst we've got them on? Have you got any questions that comes to mind that you can think that you just want to put to them right now whilst they're on?
I just wonder would you guys start Raul or start Sasha?
I'll go first.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think at the risk of dodging the question, I think it's an impossible one to answer unless you're inside the training ground and you know how ready Kalajdzic is to play. I mean, Raul's obviously not in great form, so if you had a fully fit and up to speed Kalajdzic, then I would say I'd give him a go. But unless you've spoken to him and you've seen him training, it's just impossible to say. I think he may not be ready yet to play.
Is the work permit visa, is that all sorted as far as you know?
As far as I know, yes. If it's not sorted, I don't expect it to be a problem for Saturday.
And Jack, you got a question for Steve and Tim?
Yeah, I was just going to ask what you think about these reports that we've turned down 17 million for Wang Yi-chan, because the general feeling amongst the fans is kind of that's a good deal to turn your nose up at for a player that doesn't really seem to fit how we play and is very low on confidence and hasn't really clicked with what we're doing. So I don't know whether, because Bruno said, didn't he, he's an important player for us, and I don't see that. I don't see him as an important player for us at all. So I wonder why we're kind of turning down those kind of offers for him.
Be best for you to answer that, Steve.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from, Jack. In that he obviously hasn't had a great time in recent months, and certainly not in the last week. I mean, he's obviously had a horrible week 10 days. All I would say is he's an established international on a long contract. So in the current market, 17 million quid probably isn't a lot of money, given those two factors. That he's an experienced player, he's played at a high level for a while, and he has got a long contract. So I can understand why Wolves would turn it down. Also, he's quite versatile, isn't he? He can play in a couple of different positions. Now, I've said on previous podcasts, I'm not sure you'd want him starting 30 odd games this season, but he probably is a useful player to have on the bench in that he can do a number of jobs for you. Now, in the current market, is £17 million enough money to lose that option off the bench? It sounds daft, but probably isn't at the moment.
Do you think a Leeds still trying to get him? Do you know, or is that now dead? Do you think that are they still? Because there was talk that they were still trying to make a bid, but Wolves are still resisting it. Look, do you think is there still something in that, or is it gone?
Well,
I think it all hinged on Dan James, didn't it? James going to
Fulham on loan.
Fulham, yeah.
I can only speak up to an hour ago when I last checked it out with people at Wolves, and they were kind of a flurry of rumours on Twitter, and I think Sky may have done something. I didn't see it myself, but I was told that Sky mentioned something about a new bid from Leeds.
They had.
Wolves were baffled by those reports because Wolves had heard nothing more from Leeds at that point. So unless it's changed in the last hour, then no, that's not happening.
And Mark, question for Tim and Steve from you.
Just where do you think is an acceptable place for Wolves to finish in the league this season, bearing in mind the squad depth and giving Bruno a little bit of time with the players that he's got?
It's got to be your turn, Tim.
Yeah, I feel a bit more comfortable answering this one on safer ground because it's entirely my opinion. I think. I mean, bearing in mind this is the first time he's been backed, and with serious money in the market, and I've put my sort of neck on the line earlier by saying that I think the squad's improved. I think therefore you can perhaps expect an improved league position, which I know might sound a bit daft given where they are, at the moment. But as I keep stressing, it is very early days, and I think I think they could be top half. I really do. They've just got to address the goal scoring problem, which I know is easier said than done. But hopefully he's done that with Sasa, coming in, and if Raul can rejuvenate himself. And let's not forget, there's plenty of goals, or should be plenty of goals in those wide positions from the likes of Neto and Traore. They really need, and Pedence, and they really need to start chipping in as well. And if that happens, then I think Wolves can, look at achieving a top 10 finish. Because I've been very impressed with the defence. Certainly the two centre halves so far. They look very solid, and I maintain they've got one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League.
Steve, your thoughts? Maybe difficult because you report on it, and
it's difficult. I mean, 2 points I would make on it. It's really, really hard to assess because there are areas of the squad where they're so dependent on not getting injuries. Like Tim said, the two centre halves, Collins and Kilman, look like forming a really, really good partnership. But you lose one of those. We don't quite know enough about Totti. I mean, I've not seen him play, having not covered the club last season, but no one's seen him play that much, have they? So we don't know what Totti's going to be like. If he were to have a 20 game spell in the team, we just don't know, and we don't know how the strikers are going to go. We don't know how quickly Kalajdzic is going to adapt. We don't know if Raul is going to get any kind of form. So I just think it's really, really hard to say what's achievable for Wolves this season. What I would say is, and I've written it and said it previously, I think in some ways, as long as they're not in the bottom three or bottom 5 or 6, I think in some ways the league position this season is almost secondary to. I think fans want to see some clear signs that this new style that Bruno Lage is trying to implement is
just score a goal?
Is going to work. Well, yeah.
Anything, yeah.
I think there's obviously a major transition going on, and I think if fans could see some clear signs that was working by kind of midway through the season, and they steered clear of relegation trouble, I think in some ways that would be a successful season. You've obviously then got to build on that in successive seasons.
And maybe have a cup run as well. That would be nice as well. Manny, from you next.
Yeah, I would just, the only real concern I have is we've improved a lot of players with better quality players. I think on paper, I think, but when you lose Cody, Boly, Soist, and Donker, you're losing a lot of players in the dressing room, experienced pros, old heads, and now we've got 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds playing in the centre half positions. We've got even younger players as their backups. And I'm just wondering, that Craig Dawson was probably going to be my signing of the day, if we'd have brought him in, because he would have been an older head, somebody that, has got that drive and passion and almost do a little bit of the manager's job in the dressing room. So if things don't go right for us, Tim and Steve, if things don't go right for us, in the next 2 or 3 games, where are those type of, yes, we've got the really nice fancy players, but the roll up the sleeves and now we're in the trenches and pulling players up and G'ing them on to get a win. That's where my worry is, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a fair comment.
I think that's another one of those unknown variables, isn't it? That they've lost Cody, they've lost size. Boly's gone today. Ruddy. So you've got a whole new leadership group. You don't know quite how that's going to. I mean, the top players, and everyone tells me that Ruben Neves, as the new leader of the group, is really good. But they're untested, aren't they? In adversity, which almost whatever happens on Saturday, you're probably going to be looking at a bit of adversity in 4 games' time because of the fixtures you've got coming up. So have to see how they get on.
And do you think the board is right behind Bruno up to this point? I mean, his argument, that he's only just getting his players and stuff. I think it's unfortunate that it's happening in this period, and he's obviously had the training camp, and then in the last 2 or 3 weeks we've had Nunes, we've had Guedes, we've had Sasha. Looks like the other Traore is coming in. sometimes players take time to adjust to a new country and settle in and stuff. Not everyone hits the ground running. You know, do you think that gives him a little bit of time that the board are now backing him? Because previously, up about a month ago, the focus was all on Scott Sellers and Jeff Shee, and that was where all the well, you're not backing Bruno. Well, Fosun have answered that, and they've gone in and they've spent like over 100 million, and now they have. Do you think because it's these signings are coming to like, even though it's on a bad run, that does give him a bit more time to implement the system? Because we all want him to be a success, don't we?
I mean, that's I think another difficult one to answer, Dave, because yes, in principle, I think you know, board always wants to back a manager, but if Wolves carry on not winning, if Wolves suddenly, you know, Wolves lose 5 in a row, then you know, there's probably only one outcome, isn't there? Because it's so important to stay in the Premier League and know, you know, there's probably no manager really that can survive that sort of run. But then again, you know, we're talking, you know, this is all hypothetical, isn't it? So, and I'd say that's unlikely to happen. So the hope has got to be that, you know, and I think the reality is that, you know, they've backed a manager to, you know, financially in the market to bring in the players that he wants and play, you know, get his system of football bedded in. And therefore, you know, he's got to be given the time to do the job.
Absolutely. Like Steve, I don't know how long you've got left with us, but you know, and yourself, Tim, whether how long you've got with us to
I'm gonna have to go in about 30 seconds, Dave, to be honest.
Any final thoughts from yourself to Wolves fans? Any Wolves fans watching on the window?
Well, I think it's been probably a disappointing final day in that they've clearly left themselves a little bit short of cover at the back, but that doesn't detract from the overall window. I don't think, which has been you have to say has been a success, going from the start of it, in which it was very much the message coming out was sell to buy, and then you've suddenly got a net spend of what 70 million quid. So yeah, it's been a really good window overall, hasn't it?
Yes. Well, Steve, thank you ever so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
I know it's a crazy day. I really appreciate that you've taken 15 minutes out of your busy day to come on, and I hope we can get you on again in the future. And you've enjoyed your debut.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Cheers,
Mark. I know you've got to go shortly as well. We've just brought Liam on as well, and we're going to talk about Wolves women in a minute with Jess and Manny as well. Mark, final thoughts from you, because I know you've got to get back. But I don't know whether you've got a show coming up. Whereabouts are you playing anywhere at the moment?
I'm actually the Molineux on Wednesday because I'm doing the sleep out in November at the Molineux for the foundation. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. But yeah, doing a bit more stuff for Wolves, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. So yeah, doing lots of stuff for the Wolves Foundation at the moment. So yeah,
appreciate you doing that. I mean, as you know, me, Manny, and quite a few others have done stuff with the sleep out the last 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure whether I'll be there this year because I think it's the day I'll go on holiday.
I'll take your place, Dave. No worries.
Yeah, I think the timing might not work. I'm not exactly sure on the day, but it's kind of at the cuffs where I have my winter sun break just after just after the season breaks for the.
Oh, of course, it's World Cup, isn't it?
The World Cup, yeah.
For the World Cup. So yeah, Mark, and you do pantomime this year. Are you booked for that anywhere?
Oh no, I'm not. Oh yes, I am. Yeah, I'm doing Croydon because it's close to where I live. So hopefully in the next couple of years, I'll be able to the Grand in Wolverhampton. That'll be handy.
Right. It would be good to have you at the Grand. Have you played the Grand now? I'm sure, haven't you, at some point in some respects? Have you played the Grand?
He's lost.
Lost your sound there, I think, Mark. Are you there, Mark? Can't hear you.
No, we can't hear him, Dave.
But Mark, if you can hear us, thank you so much for coming on. The Grand Theatre of rights have basically, they don't want to disclose when you're going to be playing there. Tim, back to you. How long have we got you for, Tim?
I'm all right for a few minutes.
Fantastic. Jack, I think you've got to jump off, haven't you?
Yeah.
So, Jack, because I'm going to hand over in a second to Manny for a bit to run the show whilst I go to the toilet, if that's all right, Manny.
Yeah, no problem.
Jack, your final thoughts on the window?
I think it's been a very, very positive transfer window. I think we said at the end of last year, Bruno, he needs his own players. He needs to bring his own style in. Well, he's got that now, hasn't he? He's got potentially a world-class central midfielder. He's got an excellent forward from La Liga. He's got a backup centre mid now in Traore, hasn't he? We've got Collins, who I thought was outstanding last night, by the way, and looks at a genuinely top-quality Premier League centre-back. And now we've got Big Sasser, haven't we, to hopefully get us some goals. So we're in a much healthier position than we were at the start of the window. It's now about translating that onto the pitch, because it's all right having good signings on paper and doing the business and making good business decisions. But at the end of the day, as supporters, we want to see out on the pitch. We want to see good performances. We want to see goals. We want to see wins. So then the pressure's now onto Bruno to deliver that, isn't it? I just wanted to make a really quick point, because we were talking earlier about that leadership group and Cody and Ruddy and Sace moving on. I wonder whether that's deliberate, and I wonder whether Bruno was thinking, well, hang on, those are all Nuno's lieutenants. You know, Cody runs the dressing room and Ruddy and Sace. I perhaps need to move those guys on to give me complete authority in this dressing room, because I wonder whether there's an element, because there's a lot of fans who didn't take to Bruno because he wasn't Nuno, and I wonder whether there was an element of that in the playing squad as well, that they weren't quite sure on this guy compared to Nuno, and whether he's now got, not only has he got his own players in, but he's now got that dressing room of people that are going to be his players. I just wonder whether, again, that's going to be an impact in future games and going forward. So it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? So fingers crossed.
I think that's a great point, Jack. Thank you. You've done 2 hours. 2 hours, 7 minutes. So that's pretty. That's a pretty good stretch. So I appreciate it.
Well done, Jack.
You get yourself off now. I'm going to hand over to Manny.
Okay, Dave.
And if I'm going to bring Josh back in, Manny, if you can take the lead on this, we're going to introduce.
So we just Liam, you've joined us. How you doing, mate? I know, is this Liam Berry who does the articles for Always Wolves as well?
Yeah.
Write some good articles. You've just come on. Obviously, we've been talking about not only the performance yesterday and the disappointment of not beating Bournemouth, but obviously what's happened today. Transfer window, losing Boly, losing Dendoncker, but gaining, it looks like, Boubacar Traore, who's a much younger player and for less of a fee if we do make it permanent than Dendoncker. So how have you found the last 24 hours and today's transfer window?
Well, first of all, I think the game, I didn't watch. I watched it. I wasn't really concentrating, but what I saw, it wasn't very good. We just don't seem to be able to break teams down, and I think the main problem that we've got is that we counter and then we turn around and we pass it backwards, and it just slows the play down, and then we're back to square one. But I think upcoming run, again, it's difficult teams on paper, but we usually play well against these type of teams. We usually hit them on the counter, and that's how we get our goals. And so it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's a team that have conceded 9, so realistically we should be scoring at least 1. I was expecting 2 or 3, but yeah, it wasn't the best performance. We need to start getting the goals and the results on the transfer wise. I think, thank God that we signed the midfield, because if we didn't, the Wolves fans would be going ballistic. It's Dendoncker for Traore. It's either a 27-year-old who is 1 year left on his contract, or Traore, who is 21, played in the Ligue 1 in France. So I think overall it's not a bad swap. I think last season our midfield was Dendoncker, Neves, and Moutinho, and now we've got Nunes, Neves, Moutinho, and Traoré. So as well as Conor Ronan, who we don't know much about, but he could be a dark horse. Onto the defence, I think that's a problem for Wolves. One injury, one red card, and for a couple of games the defence would be unproven. Mosquera hasn't played a minute of the Premier League. Totti has, but he's only played in the back five. We don't know much about him in the back four. So yeah, it could be a.
I think we tried to. We tried to bring that experience with Craig Dawson, and he was the real iron in the fire, and then obviously that fell apart. So we are short. I think the squad isn't perfect, and pretty much if you take away Man City and Liverpool, most fans will probably say our squad is lacking somewhere. So we know Wolves are lacking, but I think the first 11 has improved in terms of the quality that we've brought in. I think we've brought in better players, and hopefully, that comes to fruition, and we start to see some results. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to talk a little bit. I hope you don't mind. We're going to talk about Wolves women because it's really important off the back of a wonderful year for the women's football in this country, and England winning the Euros and a lot of the euphoria surrounding that. Sometimes it can get lost when the season starts and people go back to just doing what they normally do. So we like to have a bit of focus on the women's team. And I went to see Wolves women on Tuesday night away at Stoke, and also went to watch Stourbridge playing for Sporting Calcio yesterday. And Jess, I know you are an avid, reporter on all things Wolves women. So how do you see the start to the season and the players they've added and where they're going? And also they're in a new home as well, aren't they now, Jess?
Yeah, I think the players we've added have been very, very sensible. I think last season we never ever expected to win their league, to lose one game. I think that was above everyone's expectations. I think we've managed to keep hold of Tammy George. We've managed to keep hold of Shan Turner, and I think there's a few key players in that team that if we kept hold of them, we would not need to add too many players to make this team better than they already were. I think we've been lucky in the number of players we've lost. The players that we have lost a couple of players. Lauren Riley, she went to America. We've loaned out Leonie Joyce. Nia Edwards has gone to Bournemouth. But I think overall, a very successful transfer window for Wolves, and hopefully with the additions we've added, they can only add better things into this team. And I think from what I've seen with Destiny and the things she adds into the team, she's definitely.
She was my player of the match the other day. A very, very talented forward, to be fair.
She offers something different. I think she's very much. She likes to take the ball on. She likes to take the ball past the players. She offers something different to what we had last season, and I think she's definitely going to be someone that we need to look out for next season.
Tim, you know what? I just go on to if you've got any knowledge, I spoke to Russell Jones a few weeks ago, and I said to him, I wish Wolves only spent 28 million on a forward and not 30, and give 2 million to the Wolves women's team to build them a nice stand at Compton or somewhere, to give them a local ground to play on. I think that's because they've gone to Telford, and a lot of the local fans that used to attend Castlecroft can't go because it's a little bit distant, and they used to walk. Can you ever see? Can you see a natural future there? Has there been any? They've got now the medical facilities they're using. They've got all the kits they're using. Is that the next? Is that step visible? Have you? Yeah.
Well, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you probably know more about this than I do, but I just think the way women's football's going, that the men's and the women's teams will inevitably become more aligned, as the years go on. And I don't know, is it a good thing that they've? I mean, geographically, it doesn't look as good that the fact they've gone to Telford. I like the fact that they're in Castlecroft because it meant that there was obviously most Wolves supporters who go and watch them were local to, fairly local to Castlecroft. What it does do, let's not forget Wolves reserves or under 21s, under 23s played at Telford for many years, and what it does is expose the women now to a different fan base, if that makes sense. In some ways, in that Telford's been a new town for 50 years, but it's 150,000 population. There's a lot of young football fans there. Wolves is the main team in the Telford area. I don't live too far away from there myself, and I do think Wolves fans will travel. So hopefully the attendances won't suffer. Hopefully they'll continue to benefit from the post Euros boom, which I'm sure there will be. And I can only see it going one way. I've in my role now, so I've been speaking to Gemma, Birmingham City women's player, and she talks about the pathway that's there and how competitive it is to get into a first team at a young age, and she talks about how increasingly difficult it is, but also how good the facilities are, how good the training is, how competitive it all is, and that there is a real pathway to earn a living as a woman footballer now, in the game. So I think it's I just see good things ahead, because I think more following the Euros, I just think more people are just going to look to their local team and support their women's team.
Yeah, Jess, we saw the videos earlier this week of the women going into Compton and using the cryotherapy, and sometimes, which is a great thing, but you think it's 2022 and we've had to wait this long, and yes, we have made strides, but there's a lot more we can do, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I first started watching Wolves, they'd only just started training at Compton, and I think for me watching those videos, it was a very, very proud moment to think that Wolves are offering the women to do that now, because 5 years ago that would never have happened. And I think personally, Telford's a step in the right direction. I think the facilities for the players that they offer is, credit where credit's due to Castlecroft. They were very good to us, but I think the facilities that Telford offer are just head and shoulders above what the CKW did. The parking's so much better. There's the stand and the facilities for the fans is better, and I think whilst it is a bit further out of Wolverhampton than we'd like, we can't magic a ground. There's no space to build one, and we need something immediately. We couldn't wait for a place to be built for us. We needed to move out of Castlecroft. We've completely outgrown it, and I think Telford overall is a very good move.
Yeah, I think it's hopefully the fans come on the back of the team performing, and the way the team started the season again. I mean, it's a ridiculous situation last year. You win the league and you still don't go up. Imagine that. So I think it's been a wonderful start, and hopefully we can encourage more fans to get down there. Season ticket holders, it's free for you. So if you're out there near the Telford area and the Wolves women are playing at home, get down there and support the girls. I hand back to you, Dave, now.
Well, thanks for that. I just needed to go and go to the bathroom, so I appreciate that, mate. And I know, do you know what? I know it's in complete capable hands with you anyway, because you co-host all the podcasts in any case. And it's great, to be honest, because the Wolves women, and it's on this channel we do want to support all aspects of Wolves and the Wolves women, especially on the back of the Lionesses and all that sort of jazz. They've got the great. I've been to watch them a few times. Jess, you're an absolute passionate young footballer yourself. You've got aspirations of playing Wolves women one day and leading them as captain into the WSL. We've talked about this before.
Well
You've got a dream. Why can't it happen?
Yeah, it can happen. Yeah.
The good thing about the media and the exposure of the women's game at the moment, that it is inspiring so many young girls to take up the game. Jess, I think you spoke about the number of girls after the Euros for the women at your own club. How many girls' inquiries actually you had? You said there was loads of new people wanting to come and get involved, weren't there?
Yeah, and that was just a local club that don't really have a big women's team, and I think if Wolves push this, not just the Wolves women social media channels, but Wolves can do more on their main social media channels. The men's team can reach a lot of people. If it was just an occasional post about the women's team, it can reach so many people, and I'm positive that the more they post about them and the more attention and visibility that is put onto Wolves women, then the attendance will only go up in one direction. And I do hope that, you know, with this season coming now, I do hope that Wolves really give this a go and push it as much as they can, because I really do think attendances will be able to increase even more than we saw last season, because Telford can cope with it. Telford have got a better facilities and a better ground for fans to be accommodated. So I really hope that we do see a massive increase in attendances, because they're capable of it now, and I think that's what the women players deserve.
That's absolutely brilliant. Jess, you're an inspiration, and I'm really, really grateful that we've got someone as enthusiastic as you that's agreed to, along with Liam, who's a young lad as well, who talks so well, that write for the alwayswolves.co.uk website as well. So I appreciate you both getting out. I mean, Tim, just to let you know that young Liam, who we've got on here, is an aspiring journalist. He wants to, you know, follow in your footsteps, really. If you, whilst you've got on the, and he's wrote some great articles, mate. Have you got any little bits of advice for Liam and maybe Jess on if they want to pursue a career in sports journalism?
Well, certainly in Liam's case, I don't think he needs any advice from me. With his, I think he's got more than enough, all the advice he needs from his dad. I would think so. I'd just tell him to listen to his dad.
Yeah, sorry, it's Paul Berry's lad, is he? Okay.
Is that right, Liam?
I didn't know.
I never realised that either.
So you basically just copy his homework, do you?
So you, Nick, so Tim, you know Liam then?
I don't know Liam. I know of Liam just through Paul, but I've known Liam's dad for many years. Going back to when, in fact, I think it might have been Paul's first job, because I now live in Bridgnorth, and I think Paul was started on the Bridgnorth Journal. Liam's dad, when I was on the weekly papers, I might have been on the Chase Post. So, and then I covered Wolves at the Express and Star when Paul covered them for the Birmingham Mail, and then when Paul went to Wolves as press officer, head of media there. So yeah, I knew Liam's dad I've known him for many years.
Oh God, it's a small world.
Very nice chap too.
I'll tell you what, that's why he's so good. You know, his articles. Honestly, Tim, have a read. I'll on the always what he does a lot of the.
I'll pick up some tips.
We learned. Brilliant. He writes so well, as does Jess. But yeah, God crikey, he's bound to be good. Well, I am pleased to be to say that we have been joined now by a friend of the show, friend of the channel, and a literal. I hope you don't mind me bigging you up with this, Mel. A Wolves legend, Mel Eves. Welcome to the show, Mel.
Always a pleasure, Dave. You can't say the word legend with Tim on the show, because there's only a few people that are legends. But the thing is, what I always say to Tim is, it's people's opinion, and everybody's got an opinion. And opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. That's the polite version. I usually say opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one. But so Tim's opinion is.
You've nicked one from Mick McCarthy there. That was one of his lines, Mel.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but he nicked it from me then. But I, when I was with him at Man City, because that's when I got to know Mick, we were just at Man City at the same time. I had a brief spell there, and I used to pop round. He used to invite me round his house at lunchtime for a cup of tea before we went back. Yeah. That's when I first met him at Man City in the 80s, when he was playing, when he was centre half there. Yeah. When I'd left Wolves, my first club after Wolves was Man City, which a lot of people don't know. But yes, you have to be careful about the word legend.
I think it's fair to say, Mel, you are a bit of a legend.
I am a legend, but it's all in the.
And to be fair, Tim, you're a little bit on the journalistic side of things. People really listen to. I know you're not quite as involved as what you used to be back, but people still listen to what you say when you tweet. People sit up and listen to what you have to say, and that's because of all the work that you've done over the years and everything, isn't it?
I don't know. It's really uncomfortable with me. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and you can I think you can have a social media persona and people get an idea of that person, but they really don't know the person at all, you know. So and that's not anybody's fault. It's just the way. It's just the world in which we exist, isn't it? It's I think it's it's I guess it's nice to be known for something if it's not bad.
100%, and I think it's great as well that you come on like shows like this. We've had you on a few times as well, so people can see and hear the person as well. So that humanises Twitter and stuff. You know, Twitter can be a bit of a toxic place. Mel,
It can be like, isn't it? Yeah, I would actually say that I think this is a really good platform, though, Dave, for that sort of thing. And I think just going back to the point you asked me about for likes of Liam and Jess, I just think I think anywhere that and I think possibly there are less but more mediums these days for aspiring journalists to get their stuff out there. I.e., there's not so much in print, but there are other forums like this too, where you can become a voice, become an authority, get your name around, and I think it's really important for anybody in that situation to use it, and I think it's really good what you do, Dave, to provide a platform for people to express their views, especially as well as eloquently as Liam and Jeff's have done tonight.
Do you know what? I mean, that means a lot. I mean, because that's what we're about. We're trying to be a community. We try to give everyone a voice. And when you've got like youngsters that, are really passionate about, in Jessie's case, being a ladies footballer and supporting as well as the men's team, she goes pretty much home and away to all the women's team. And what with Liam, who's got aspirations to be a journalist, as Mad Wolves fan as well, I'm just like really happy to give them that opportunity to get involved, and I'm really grateful. And they're such great youngsters as well, and they're the future, and they should be encouraged. So I appreciate that. Mel, thanks for joining us. We've got literally, how long have we got of the transfer window left? We've got like 45 minutes to go. It looks as if most of Wolves' business has been done. They haven't officially announced, I don't think, the Traore deal, but then Donker's gone out, Boly's gone out. The first question that I'd like to ask to you, Mel, is obviously, watching this, seeing what's happened through the winter and through the summer window about to close. How do you see Wolves' summer business?
Oh, there's a big pause. What's coming?
I'm not. Well, I'm not.
Let it out, Mel. Come on, let it out.
Is he being tactful and biting your tongue and your lip here, mate?
Yeah, because
sit on your hands, Mel.
I like what I see. He's looking to be positive. He wants to go away and establish his own kind of brand as opposed to carrying on from Nuno. So Bruno wants to go 4 at the back. Nuno came in and put Connor Cody in the middle of a back 3. We had wing backs and it worked like a dream. But the big thing is we struggle to score goals. I know I'm, as Basil Fawlty would say, stating the bleeding obvious, but we've got to address that problem. Now, unfortunately, which was highlighted last night, obviously Paul Rahul, he's just not the same player as he was before the Arsenal incident. So he hasn't come back the same. We need a centre forward. We've gone out and got one, which we need to take some pressure on. Now, whether he can play, I'm sure that Rahul can play with a proper centre forward, with a centre forward that we've just got. But we need somebody, as even Pep Guardiola and everybody was saying about Man City. What does he need to go out and get a number 9 for? They've got enough. They score 100 goals a season anyway. And we've all seen now why he's gone and got Haaland, and he's let Jesus go. He's let Sterling go, and everybody's scratching their head. But they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it stands out like a sore thumb. We need we can't get Ireland, obviously, because he's going to go to the biggest clubs, and we're not the biggest club at the moment. But we need somebody that's going to bust a gut to get on the end of things, and that's what it needs, because we've got the creative players, we've got the Pedro Netos, we've got Podence, we've got people that will get what you would call attacking midfielders or wingers, but we haven't got proper strikers or goal scorers. Natural goal scorers. I like Nunes. I like a lot of the stuff I've seen. I like Guedes, however you pronounce it. I like him. But the thing is, they're not scoring. They've had gilt-edged chances to score, both of them. I've watched them. Even Podence had a great chance to score, and then obviously Rahul had the best chance to score. Completely fluffs it because he's not. His confidence is absolutely shot, and he's not there now. Why on earth they haven't got somebody to work with Rahul to get rid of the mental block, because it is a mental emotional block that he's got. And
you know this striker we've signed, Mel. He's 6'7". Obviously, everyone talks about him being so tall, 6'7". So, in your experience as a footballer and playing in lots of different teams, how do Wolves go about making the use of somebody with that? Because Don Goodman was on earlier, and he hopes Wolves don't go, too long, too early type thing, and think.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they will, because they play the Portuguese way, which is very kind of pragmatic. And you watch Portugal; they're very difficult to play against, and there's usually not a lot in their games, and they'll beat teams 1-0 all day. And we've got that mentality, because we've got a lot of Portuguese in the team, which is great because they're really good footballers, and they're really pleasing on the eye. But the big thing about strikers, it doesn't matter whether they're 5'6" or 6'6". It's a matter of will they get on the end of things, and do they know where to go to score goals? The big thing you've got about Haaland, I'll just make it, because he's like 6'4", isn't he, at least? And he's a big handful. He's a really good athlete. But the big thing about it is he's got a football brain. He knows where to go, and he doesn't want to. He's not interested in coming and getting the ball and say, "Look how good I am." All he's interested in is linking things up, getting on the end. He wants to be the one that finishes things off. But he'll play other people in as well when he needs to, because he's got a good football brain. He can see it, but he's always looking to play on the shoulder, get in between the defenders, get just to get on the end of stuff. And we haven't had that. We haven't had that since Rahul's got injured, unfortunately. And Jota's gone as well. Jota was the other one that did that, and we haven't replaced him.
Is that something that can be taught, Mel, or is it something that is just pure instinctive? Because I saw Lineker going on about this last night. I don't know if you saw it as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Look, you can teach it. You can teach it, but as was quite rightly pointed out to Lineker, that's what he did. And he talks about percentages and whatever. Yes. You have to go into you attack the near post. I've done sessions on this with players anyway, and coaching. You attack areas. So the ball's only going to go near post, far post, or in the centre. So you attack an area, because if you just stop there with the centre off, it's going to be a battle and a fighting battle, and the defenders are going to do their job if they just put you off just getting a decent contact. They don't have to edit themselves. But if you can just fly into areas, whether it be near post, this is what if you hear me on the radio, I'm always saying, somebody's got to get across the keeper. Somebody's got to just, as soon as the guy's going to pull, say, Neto's on the left, or he's going to pull it in, he's going to hit the ball, you've just got to then fly to a position and try and get across the defender near post, go in the middle, or just pull and just go back far post. And the defender will go and and defend there, and you're just going to hope, he lifts it over the defender, and you've got a header at the far post. But you've got to do something as opposed to just stand there, which we do. I was watching it last night, and I was fuming. I was just looking. I'm going, there's no movement. They're just standing there. They're just standing there.
Liam, I just want to come over to you as a young lad that you're watching all of this as well and listening to what Mel's got to say about that. I mean, do you agree with that? Because you do quite a good analysis of games and watching stuff. You've done some like heat maps and stuff like that. Have you looked at that sort of thing with Raul's movement? And if it was down to you on the weekend, because I don't know if we've asked you this question, would you keep Raul in, or would you take him out the firing line, or would you do as what Manny has suggested, that they could play alongside each other? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's probably a little bit too early to put Sasha into the lineup, I'd say. I think Jimenez, especially last season, wasn't up to scratch as what he was in the previous years before his injury. I wouldn't. It's not so much just Jimenez. I think when we didn't have Jimenez in the side, I think we were looking the same. Like Guedes and Flang, who have played up front before, are no strangers to playing striker. We still weren't scoring, and we're still such a low scoring side. So I'm not convinced that it's just Jimenez. I definitely think that it's the players around him play a part in that as well. I definitely think that he's definitely not been up to scratch, like I said. But yeah, maybe it's a bit too early to put Sasha into the lineup. And as for putting them next to each other, maybe you could get away with that with maybe Fabio and Sasha, but maybe not Raul and Sasha, because Raul's a bit like Fabio's a lot more agile than Raul, and you need somebody that's agile. Maybe you can see Guedes next to Sasha, and then Podence and Neto on either wings. But yeah, maybe.
Interesting. And Jess, from your point of view, listening to what Mel said, what position do you play, Jess?
Midfield.
So, what Wolves player, women's player and men's player would you associate yourself most with in the team that we can? In what position you play in the midfield? Which sort of ladies and men's player would you say?
Well, I think Wolves women have definitely have the best midfield in the league. They're absolutely storming every game, and I think it's got to be between obviously Tammy George and Summer Holmes. So I think Tammy plays a bit more up front compared to Summer Holmes. She tends to sit back a bit more. So I think I'd have to be a bit more like Summer Holmes, but I think that's obviously they're two very, very, very good players, and I don't think I'm anywhere near as good as them, but out of the two, I would say Summer Holmes more so than Tammy George.
Plenty of time for that, though, Jess. Plenty of time. Josh, you're listening to what Mel said there on regards to, getting things. I saw you nodding along with that. Do you want to make a couple of comments on that?
Yeah, say on that, it was like he says, there was that many crosses during that game where someone just needed to come across the keeper. And one person, I know I'm going a while back now, but one person that always used to do that, even on corners, running across the keeper, was Dave Edwards. I know it's going a while back, but you could guarantee every time that if a ball's coming in a box from the corner or down from the wing, Edwards was always from midfield, bombing it into the box, going for near post. And if he didn't get there, someone was in behind him in the middle. You could see Nunes trying to do it, but second half, it was that hardly anyone was getting in the box. It's something that needs working on, definitely, if we're going to start to play wingers. But yet again, they were always cutting back in. Even when Nuri came on, he was going down so far, cutting back. And usually I can see that when we're sitting a bit deeper and he starts to go, realise there's no one in front of him, so he comes back across to replay the ball. But when we were that far at the pitch on the edge of the 18-yard box, and it kind of sort of worked better when we were getting further forward. But then you get to that point again, there was no one attacking the 6-yard box.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Tim, I get a little bit frustrated, I think, with the lack of goals and stuff like that. The Wolves have scored, and it looks as if like we've got our window sorted now as we come literally into the last 35 minutes. of the deadline. It looks unlikely like there's anything else that's gonna happen. I think Mel's internet or something has just gone, so he's just disappeared. You know, is there anything that you're disappointed with this window yourself?
I think you know, perhaps as Steve said earlier, you know, there is perhaps a concern with the failure not to have signed Craig Dawson, a feeling that if there are injuries to what is now appears to be, you know, an established back four, or that's what he's trying to establish. You know, that there's the only cover that there's there is very inexperienced with Totti Gomez and Mosquera. I guess that would be the only concern for me. And there's no real, apart from those two, you know, there's no real backup at centre half. So I think from a perspective, you know, they've got to hope that they keep the two first choice centre backs fit. I do think they've got a strong midfield and plenty of options up front. They just need to kind of somehow rediscover some form and confidence in front of goal, create more chances and take more of those. As Liam said earlier, I don't think it's just Raul Jimenez, because I honestly think that you know, with the talent that the likes of Pedro Neto and Daniel Podence has got, and throw in, you know, Hwang and Traore, there should be a lot more assists and a lot more goals coming from those from the wide areas, and you know, let's hope that'll be the case. But reflecting on the window, I think it's been a positive window, because Wolves, for me, have got a stronger squad now, even having lost those players, and a certain, you know, amount of experience and know-how in the dressing room with the loss of you know, Cody, Boly, Ruddy, Dendoncker. I still think there's enough now and quality there to challenge last season's finishing position.
Absolutely, and we're gonna do a little bit of fun now. We're gonna have a little bit of something different. I'm just messaging Lucy. Just hold on a second, and I'm just finding out if Mel can get back on. Hold on. So we're gonna do a spin the wheel, random question, whilst we just a little bit of something different, and I hope this works, because we set this up earlier, which is a little spinny wheel.
Oh, Dave, what you doing now? Go on, let's have a look.
There's questions on here. There's Wolves questions and there's random questions.
I ain't doing no bloody dancing or anything. What you
don't need to do any dancing or anything like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the wheel. This Emma, the producer, worked on this earlier, and it's a bit random.
I wish I could see what's on there, to be honest, Dave.
Well, she'll read them out. She'll read it out. Go on.
I'll read it out. We've got Lucy back as well. So we're going to spin it. But it's going to be for everyone. This is.
Okay.
So I'm going to spin the wheel.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I'm concerned about these questions now.
Oh. And it is, do aliens exist?
I'll answer that one. Yes, they do. Most of them are on Twitter or on my block list.
Good answer.
Okay, Tim, for you.
I was going to say something like Manny, but I think they're out there on social media. So yeah, but probably inhabit certain Twitter timelines, I think.
Okay, so that's a kind of yes. Lucy, you're back.
I'm back.
You're back. Do aliens exist?
I don't think so, but generally on Twitter, yes. Obviously, like the boys have already said, definitely, because there's some right weirdos on there. But no, I don't.
And we're hoping to get him Mel back, so he probably doesn't know what's going to hit him when he comes back.
He's gonna think, what the hell have I tuned into now?
Right, you've just we're doing a random question. We're going to come back onto another one in a minute, but the spin the wheel was, do aliens exist? Josh, is your one next?
I'm going with the sensible one here and not mention Twitter. I'm going to go proper. I'm not going to go too deep. I'll just give a quick answer. Not in our solar system, but I reckon there is somewhere else, further afield.
On law of averages, Liam.
Yeah.
Probably somewhere, like Josh said, somewhere, but probably not anywhere close.
Well, Brian Lee said they all live in West Brom.
I was going to mention them.
And Mel, for you, do aliens exist?
Well, depends what you call aliens, isn't it?
I think
if
it's
there's
like
if you've got different kind of levels of being, so to speak, yes, they do.
Fantastic. Right, because you've missed out, we're going to do another one.
You need some music with this, Dave.
So
need a
here's
little bit of a jingle. Oh, here we go.
Okay,
Go
so
on.
we're literally we're going to spin the wheel again and see what comes up this time. Here we go. And the question is, this is a good one. We'll start with Mel first on this one. Tell us.
We'll be here all night now if we start with Mel.
Tell us about your greatest sporting moment. We'll start with Mel.
My greatest sporting moment.
Yeah.
It was when I was at my my junior school, and it wasn't the headmaster, but it was the head of the class that I was in. The teacher called me in, and he gave me his season ticket for the Molyneux Street stand, and it was a prize because I'd scored 10 goals for the school team in a game.
Wow, that's more than Haaland scored.
That's more than we
I
scored
know.
in the last.
I just wanted to say I just put Haaland to shame. I did score 10 in a game, and I think I scored over 10. But he said, "Oh right," he called me over and he said, "Right, I'm just going to give you." But the experience that I got, because I was obviously used from the age of 7. This was when I was about 10 or 11. But the experience that I got was, I'm thinking, I can't believe how quiet it is. They don't chant in here. They don't sing or anything. It was all very quiet. It was like, because it's the first time I'd actually sat down to watch a game.
Amazing. And
so that was my first 14 moment. But it sticks out like it really kind of, I remember it. I was just watching it and it was very dark. And it was the old cantilever, the different, the old Molyneux Street stand. And it was a surreal experience. So that was kind of one of the what was the question?
Your
greatest. Well, it was, yeah. Which obviously the greatest sporting moment was the fact that I scored 10 goals in that one game.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Interesting you picked that one out of everything you could have picked. That's fantastic.
Because everybody was thinking, you see Tim Nash thinking, wow, when I played, because I only played at Wembley once and we won. Because he'd think, everybody would think that I'd say that.
Yeah.
Which was obviously from my professional career, it's one of the highlights. And there's just different ones really. Scoring the winner against at Old Trafford, scoring the winner against Arsenal, scoring blah blah blah, and great. And then obviously knowing people like Manny and Tim Nash is obviously a great sporting moment for me. And listening to him, and then now meeting you, Dave.
Well,
then you've got the up and coming youngsters like Liam coming in. So there you go.
Well,
It's
I
all
think
good.
that's the next person that we go to because Liam's got a very young. So, how old are you, Liam?
I'm 16, so yeah.
So you know your greatest sporting moment up to your 16 years.
There's a lot of good ones like United, the FA Cup one. That was good. The Leicester game on the first year back in the
What
Premier
about
League.
your greatest sporting moment?
Oh, personally,
Yeah. What have you done?
I've done a Hwang-esque. I tried to clear the ball across my own goal, and they scored. So that's probably not the best one.
No.
I don't actually know. I scored a hat. It's nothing compared to Mel, but I scored a hat trick in a game.
There you go.
Ask Tim. Tim's an avid runner. You know, he's probably got.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's super fit.
Medals,
Isn't he, Tim?
yeah, proper fit. It's our Tim.
Go on, Tim.
Well, mine. I have got some running ones, but I've got to say it's a footballing one because I used to play left wing, right? So I was not known for tackling, but I used to love to run with the ball. But
Waggy Nash.
Oh, if only. But once I played for a Sunday League team called Codswell Bull. They used to be in Wolverhampton Sunday League, and so our sort of local rivals were Bilbrook, and Bilbrook had an up and coming team run by a certain Steve Daly. Now Steve, his own career had finished. He was in his early 40s by this time, but he was actually playing Sunday League. He was player manager, and he had players like his own son Ryan, who went on to play for like Telford, Bromsgrove. There's another lad who what's his name, Charlton, Ashley Charlton. Can't remember his. But anyway, he went on to play for Mansfield.
Eddie Charlton's lad, was it?
Yeah. And so they were known divisions as can happen in the Sunday League when they're really. Anyway, so we. Oh crikey! I've gone off.
We can see you.
We can see you. We can see it here. Stu Kelsall says Tim Nashino.
Nashino. Brilliant.
Is he
No, he's
froze?
gone off. Yeah, he's froze now.
Oh, right, he'll be back in a sec. So go on, Lucy. You can you can talk about your greatest sporting moment.
There isn't any. There really isn't.
It's to come. It's still to come.
Even if it's the
That's it.
If it's an egg and spoon race, it doesn't matter.
Oh, Dave,
No,
you've just.
well,
Right.
I think when I swam for the school, I did come last. I did come last, and I was a lot further behind than everybody else. But you know what? I achieved it. I did 4 laps of that pool, and it was such hard work, but I got through it, and I got out, and all the team were clapping me and patting me on the back. I was knackered. I did myself in, but I did it. I finished it, and that was my achievement.
I think that's a great example because it doesn't have to be anything major glorious for you.
No.
You came last in that race, but you did it and achieved it.
Lucy, it's three more lengths than I've ever done. I did. That's where I got to. I got to the. I got my width and my length, and then I could. That's it.
Oh.
So I never got in the swimming team or anything.
You know,
so
Mel, if somebody's
done more than me.
If somebody's just tuned in and heard Mel Eve saying, "I've got my width and my length," and wondered what's going on.
Well, it is getting a late night show now, so it could be anything.
Anything could happen. Anything could happen.
Liam,
We're going to come to you last, Manny. We're going to go to Josh next. Come on, mate.
I was sitting there thinking, what have I done? And I was going to mention about like the Boys Brigade swimming, but I've got something literally the other side of my room that's staring me in the face, which is the obvious answer, and that's the finishing the London Marathon in 2018 for
Brilliant.
me. And raising £3,800 for Parkinson's UK as well.
Well done, Josh.
Fantastic.
It was, just the whole circumstance of it all, because both my granddads and then my uncle having Parkinson's, and then running that on that day in 28-degree heat when it was 7-degree heat the week before. It was just brilliant. The atmosphere, everyone cheering you on, and it I'd love to do it again, but the chances of getting on the ballot again is a big ask.
It's a tough one.
And well, Paul Harris says he was British judo champion in 1977, won gold at Crystal
Where do you
Palace.
go? Bloody hell.
Brown and Design White fought for GB back in the day, which is absolutely fantastic. Loads of people saying well done, superb, Josh, as well. Well done, Manny. Your greatest sporting moment may yet to become. Is that
it's to come? You know what? I hope Wolves are off the bottom of the table. I'm not going to walk to Chelsea from Molineux to watch Wolves play bottom of the table. I want them to win before we get there. So yeah, that's to come. But you know what? I am actually going to go with Lucy. You know, I was actually in an egg and spoon race as an 11-year-old. Steve Herman's now wondering what these guys are talking about. Anyway, Steve,
mate,
so
you just
welcome to Steve. So I was in an egg and spoon race for I was in the Cub Scouts day, so the second Ettingshaw pack, and we was in the egg and spoon race, and I came third. But we had to go to this lady at the end of the race, and she used an old typewriter to type the certificate out, and I told her that I came first. So she put first place on my certificate. So I took it home and showed it everybody and told them that I'd won this race when I hadn't. I'd only come third. So that's been kept a secret now for 30 odd years. So it's all out now.
That's it.
But apart from that, I played for a team called.
You've been exposed now, Manny.
I have been exposed. I played football for a team called Coseley Rovers, and I think I was the first ever Asian player to play for that team. Back in 1988, and we went to play in a competition called the Canary Cup, which was in Great Yarmouth, and we played on Carrow Road. We played our quarter-final and had our medals presented by Raw Fox back then. So that was a good moment.
Mate,
I'll take.
Mate, that's got me rolling. Steve from Radio WM, welcome to the show.
Evening. I take it if Manny's telling stories like that, it's winding down on transfer deadline day, and there's nothing.
Yeah, it's winding down.
We've been doing this. We've got a little spin the wheel with a load of random questions, which we've just introduced for a bit of light-hearted towards the end. And one that's come up is our greatest sporting moment. I'm going to give you a chance to think because you're going to have to answer it now.
Blimey.
Yeah, but mine, I once scored a perfect hat trick. I scored playing for the Express and Star, funnily enough, which was a left foot, right foot, and header. And Peter Creed, who was nice chap and stuff. He gave me a bottle of champagne. And obviously, I played for England at table tennis
There you go.
when I was a junior. So those are my. I'll remember my hat trick though, but it was complete fluke. The first one hit me on the head and went in. The second
slip
one,
that in, Dave. Just slip that in there.
Which one? Which bit?
Table tennis.
The
World
international,
champion.
international.
You play table tennis, Mel?
No, well, I do, but not international. Flipping heck.
Yeah, I played. It was at a junior level. I am, and I did play county, so I was quite good. But Steve, what's your greatest sporting moment?
Well, I was runner-up in the BBC Radio WM ping pong tournament last year.
There's it. We're going to have a tournament here.
I'm not playing Dave after hearing that.
I haven't played for a while.
Are we talking on field, like
anywhere, mate? Anywhere.
Lucy's was coming last in a 4-length swimming race, but she achieved it. Liam got a hat trick. Josh did the London Marathon. Mel has gone way back to when he scored 10 goals when he was at school and stuff like that.
Mel was
it could be absolutely anything.
Didn't go for the 1980 League Cup final. Come on, Mel.
Do you know what? That's exactly what Mel said. Not everyone would think that, but it wasn't.
There you go. I mean, last year I played at St Andrews in like an end of season game and kept a clean sheet. It was only a 20-minute game.
Playing goal.
I still kept it. I did.
I
Yes,
saw. I
yeah,
did
yeah.
see the Twitter post of your save and your claim.
Seriously,
I
Steve,
remember.
because we might need we might need you in goal for our Always Wolves team at some point. We'll need a goalkeeper.
Okay.
So shouldn't have said that.
Oh, okay. Well, that, I mean, all right.
Sign him
Well,
up. Sign him up. Dave, we've got 15 minutes left. Sign him up.
Yeah. Before the deadline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm available on a free. It's fine. Yeah. What else? Oh, I did score a goal as a goalkeeper once. It was for Cuford Eagles under 12s in a friendly against Coven Colts, and I went up because I was told that they weren't very good, Coven, and I went up for every single corner in the second half because we were 5-0 up at half time, and I scored with a half volley with the last kick of the game.
Brilliant.
So there you go.
The glory, Steve. Well, as you can see, we've got Manny, Liam, Josh.
I tell you what, these people that go on the radio at WM, I tell you what, they don't half embellish things, don't they? I'd never do that.
Was
now
it the
you
half
always
volley?
back us up when you come on, man. We're normally talking for about an hour after the show with Mel because he's got so many stories, man. I tell you, he really has got so many stories. Steve, you've been down to an awards evening today, haven't you?
I have. It sounds very obscure. The Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists, very rock and roll event. But my son has speech and language needs, communication needs, and they invited me down for. Basically, if anyone follows me on Twitter, they'll see that I tweet about it a lot, as well as about the Wolves. But I tweet about speech therapy because they do an amazing job. So I was down there today and getting the last train back.
And was it good, the ceremony?
I mean, the canopies could have been better, but it was nice. No, it was nice. It was a nice awards do. Nick Hewer of Countdown fame is their honorary president, so he was there. So there you go, sort of mingling with a celebrity. But no, it was good. I mean, it's been. I felt like I've lived on a train for the last 48 hours because I got the train yesterday from Birmingham to Bournemouth, commentated on the game for BBC Radio WM, and then this morning got the train from Bournemouth to Waterloo, and now here I am on the way back home on the last Chiltern train. So
the signal's
it's been
good.
a manic. It's not bad. You're going to jinx it now, but it's not bad, is it?
No. Well, there's a quick question for Mel. Do you keep in touch with Andy Gray and George Berry?
Not so much Andy because he's mainly out the country, but I speak to him there. But keep in touch with George. I also had a contact from Bob Hazel as well, just the other day as well. Just because obviously we got the bad news that we'd lost Sammy Chung.
Yeah.
So they were just.
We should mention Sammy Chung actually because,
Yeah, he's a great guy. He was obviously there because I came through. The Wolves ranks with Bob Hazel and George Berry, big mates of mine, and we were all roughly the same age, and came through. And Sammy was a big part of that. We all come under McGarry, and then Sammy took over, and it was Sammy that gave me, I think, all of us our debuts. Well, certainly mine, anyway. I think Bob might have just got in. It might have been McGarry that gave them their debuts just before me, but it was Chungy took over to give me mine. So it was he was a great, lovely man as well. Not just a great football guy that knew the business inside out. He was probably one of the best coaches ever. He was just brilliant. So it's a sad loss, but I know he hasn't been very well for quite a few years now. So but he always
was he 90?
He was 90. He kept himself very fit.
Yeah.
So I think that that was he was always very fit, always pretty immaculate, and but great guy, great lovely man, and it's a big loss for all the Wolves family.
Hopefully, I'm pretty sure Wolves will do something at the game on Saturday.
I'm sure. Yeah, there'll be something very fitting. I would have thought because they've been on last week. I was at the funeral of Pat Quirk, who was the Wolves historian and the leading tour guide, and he was a real character. And most people that were kind of in and around the club will know Pat or have known him, and they did really well with Pat. There was a lovely piece by Paul Berry, by Beza in the program for the Fulham game, and but I'm sure that there'll be a fitting tribute I think they'll have time to have put it in for the Southampton game.
Yeah, and so well deserved as well. You know, from everything that I've heard about him and stuff like that, I'd have been a very young lad back then. But so many people have said so many fantastic things about him, and he deserves a minute's applause at the weekend. I'm sure there'll be something on the big screens as well, and there's definitely being something in the program. Steve, just want to come to you a little bit. What are your thoughts on the window for Wolves and the situation Bruno's in? We're talking about how good the signal was and stuff like
that. He's gone in a tunnel.
I'll tell you what we'll do whilst we wait.
Jinxed it.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do one more last spin of the wheel. See what else comes up.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Just realise what music you should have over it when you spin it now, Dave. Remember on the BBC, The Wheel.
Oh, right. How's that go?
I'm not singing it.
Don't sing it, Josh. Go on.
The Wheel.
Literally. Bit of a jingle. It just says The Wheel part way through.
Here we go. So we're going to spin it again. You ready? Let's see what we're going to get this time. Whoa!
That's a good one. That's it.
What's your favourite away day, people? I think we're gonna start this time. We'll start with Lucy. I don't know if you've been to any away games, Lucy. I think you have been to some away games.
Just a few. Just a few with Atherton. Oh God, my favourite. There's quite a few, but my favourite one has got to be when we played Villa away last season, because I wasn't supposed to have gone. I was in bed, fast asleep, and my uncle rang me at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "Luce, do you want to come to the Villa game?" And I went, "Well, not right now at the minute. I'm just woke up. You've just woke me up." And he went, you need to be in town by 9 o'clock if you want to come. Do you want to come?" And I went, "Yes." How I got up there after having a shower, getting my makeup on, sorting myself out, I managed to get up there for dead on 9 o'clock. I had breakfast in the pub. We got on the train, and do you know what? I had the best day ever.
I think we all did that day.
It was just brilliant. I mean, I shouldn't have gone because obviously it wasn't my ticket. Unfortunately, my cousin was really poorly in hospital.
No one's going to say, Lucy.
Steve, that was brilliant. Steve Herman will understand this. I was covering it for BBC Radio WM on the day, and I got Gary Thompson on my left. Mike Taylor was doing the commentary to his left, and on my right was Daz Hale. Now, if everybody doesn't know, I think everybody should know. Obviously, Daz is a big Wolves fan.
He was on earlier, Mel.
Yeah, he was on earlier.
So Daz is a big Wolves fan. You see, because you get confused because Franksy doesn't let it out who he supports, but obviously most of the others, like Jenny Wilkes, is a big Wolves fan. Daz nails his colours to the mast, but Franksy's he keeps it. He doesn't.
We know who Franksy supports.
So we've got Daz, who's what you would call hosting the show, but Mike Taylor is doing the commentary. And he's got the two pundits, me and Big Tomo, Gary Thompson. Gary's doing it for Villa, I'm doing it for Wolves. So we're doing up there. And obviously, when he got to 2-0 with 10 minutes to go, I'm more or less saying, well, yeah, Villa have probably just about done enough. Wolves haven't, it's been pretty even, but Wolves haven't quite, I was more or less preparing to concede it. But then when we got one back and it went with about 8 minutes to go, 2-1, I got a big nudge in my ribs from Daz. He's going, come on. He's going. And of course, he's not on air, Daz. Mike is, and me and Tomo are. And then when he got to 2-2, Daz is going ballistic, but he's not on it. He's going. And I'm trying. Then coming to me to obviously comment on what's going on. Well, I have to be very professional. When it went 3-2, Daz is out of his seat, going absolutely mental, and I'm still having to be kind of very, very professional and say, yeah, Wolves have just got that there. I can't go ballistic. I'm going inside. I'm going. I'm having to just say, yeah, it's a bit tough on Villa that, and but all credit to Wolves. They've kept going. He's out of his seat. He's virtually on his seat, going ballistic like the fans opposite us. Oh, it's great. So I can really associate that with Lucy said. What a day that was. Well, it wasn't very good until about 10 minutes to go, was it? And then it started to change.
Yeah, it's only happened. It's only happened 3 times in the Premier League that a team leading into the 81st minute has actually won the game.
It's a once in a lifetime thing. That I think that Villa experience with the last 10 minutes.
We need some of that apart from not conceding any goals on Saturday. Tim, what about your favourite away day from either in your journalistic or just going or whatever? He's thinking about it.
He's frozen.
Oh,
was he old enough to go to the game at Old Trafford when I scored the winner in 1980?
Have you ever told anybody that you've scored the winner at Old Trafford before?
I've never Manny. I've never mentioned it before. It's never come up.
He cracks me up, man.
It only came up. It only came up when Joe Martinio took the mantle away from me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Steve,
anyway, I'll settle for that. One of the most decorated players of all time.
Taking your record.
Yeah, that's fair enough. No problem at all with that.
Steve, what about you? Away day, best favourite away day, coming from any perspective.
Favourite away day. If I could have a couple, I mean, I don't want to go with the obvious of the playoff final at Cardiff because that was the ultimate away day, wasn't it? Really, so and that's the obvious one. That's just, just what a day. In terms of commentary, doing Crusaders, I did Crusaders in the Europa League. Just to think, I mean, and the great thing is that my dad had a ticket in the. He actually had a ticket in the Crusaders, and I think he was one of the many Wolves fans who did that. And I met with my dad and had a selfie outside the Crusaders stadium. So I was doing the commentary with Daz, who travelled over, and my dad had a ticket. We did a selfie outside the stadium. And just a few years earlier, we did a similar selfie outside Kenilworth Road on the day that Wolves got knocked out of the FA Cup by Luton in Stolar Solbacken's last game in charge. And I put those two pictures side by side like a day later. And I just said, and he just put it into perspective, how crazy it was that Wolves were in Europe. Obviously 40 years on from when Mel was part of the team, until Jota, the last person to score in Europe. Another great player taking a record off your Mel.
There's some good ones.
Jota and Martinho, they've got the
They've got a lot to answer for.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I'll let them off. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that.
Tim, what about you? We were just asking you before you froze your favourite away day from any perspective.
Crikey, yeah, it's a difficult one. Because I've kind of for me it's like kind of reporter or supporters that they're very different. They're very different experiences, but I'd probably, for just the sheer emotion in which I really experience probably both, i.e. reporter and supporter, was probably the playoff final in 2003. Because I think I really felt like everybody that day. 19 years outside the top flight, and I just never forget just the massive, like, almost disbelief and relief as well from what seemed like the whole of the Millennium Stadium, but 33,000 Wolves fans there that day, and it was just the second half was almost like one long party. I remember like going to just sniffing to the loo at half time. It was like there's congas going around, and in the concourse and that, and people not still refusing to believe that Wolves could be promoted to the Premier League, but almost at the same time daring to believe it. So it was very
until 5 minutes to go, because it was like we're still like, as Wolves fans. So the penalty save as well, that was a big one at the start of the second half. Josh, is that one yours as well, Josh? Because you were kind of
that one sticks in the memory because that was my first ever away game. Technically, not a game outside of Molineux, and I was only 8 years old.
To go to for your first one.
I was going to say
I was 8 and my brother was 4, and my dad had to run through a closing Woolworths beforehand to get my brother a Thomas the Tank Engine book to make sure he stayed entertained. But to be fair to him, he watched the game.
Is that what you're going with?
No, I'm going to go with, because there's loads. I mean, I'd go for Espanyol or Braga, but because of the trouble and the result, I can't. The one for me was Besiktas.
Yeah.
Because we flew down the day before, and as me and my brother said, we'd only have 1 pint in this Irish bar around the corner from the hotel, and that we blew our budget basically for the Thursday night in the Irish bar. So we said, right, we're gonna have to dip into the card. Then second day we went walking around main area of Istanbul. We got the tram up from Besiktas into the main city centre and went round one of the temples and round the high streets, and then got back to the Taksim Square. It wasn't it? We were stopping in there, and Wolves fans had already started to gather, but we had a pool on the top of our hotel, so we dived into there for a few beers in the pool beforehand, and then met the Wolves fans outside again, and then it was all, because everyone was scaremongering before enough, because we didn't sell out that game either.
Yeah,
I look back in there, it's the one game my dad could have, because my dad had a membership at that point still. And it's the one game, even in membership, could have got a ticket for that. And it would have been brilliant to have him there with us.
So well organised as well,
yeah,
Josh.
It was, yeah. And then it was good. It was good, and the fact that me and my brother were spotted on ITV with our shirts off when we scored on the news the morning after.
You never.
Yeah.
Good memories that. Liam, what about you?
Probably 2017 when we were in the Championship. We played Liverpool in the FA Cup. We beat them 2-1. That was a really good away day for me, because we never expect to win. So 2 early goals. Yeah, it was really good. The atmosphere as well was really good. So probably Liverpool away.
Fantastic. And Mane?
I have to pick something different. The European away days were brilliant. I was going to say Spurs, the Wembley match against Spurs when we beat them 3-1, because I didn't have tickets. So, there's always a story. And then I went on the Spurs website and I was searching through their tickets. And like you do, you just hook or by crook. And I managed to get some corporate tickets off the Spurs website for like 80 quid each. So we ended up in a box in the Spurs end, directly opposite the Wolves fans. And then next minute, this French family turned up into our box, and I said, "This is ours," and they said, "No, you're sharing it with us today." And it was Hugo Lloris's family.
Hugo Lloris.
Yeah, so Hugo Lloris's family were in the box with us at Spurs, and right a few boxes away were all the Wolves teams, families, and obviously the match started and we went 1-0 down, brilliant goal by Harry Kane, and we were sort of hanging on, and then we just turned in this miraculous performance, and we're there going absolutely mental. We're not even wearing our normal gear, me and my sons. We're not wearing our gold turbans. We're actually just dressed quite casually because we're, in the Spurs end, and we're going absolute mental with these Hugo Lloris's family around us, wondering what the hell's going on. So that was probably a really good away day. Obviously, the Yerevan one at Armenia, going to watch Wolves in Armenia again. Not telling my family. My family were in India. Didn't tell them. I ended up going to Armenia on a last minute whim. Spent about $1,000, I think, on tickets via Moscow, and I rang my family in India from Armenia and said, "I'm in Armenia," and they're like, "No, you can't be." I know, I'm in Armenia. The funny thing is, I flew back on the Saturday to then go to Leicester away, which is our first game of the season, and on the Sunday flew out to India to be with them. So some real amazing personal journeys on away days.
That's amazing. I think I'll probably, obviously the playoff final, but like Istanbul was just fantastic, and also Torino, the first one that I went to. Apart from the crush, that was pretty cool getting into Europe and stuff like that. Guys, the transfer window is officially.
We have
closed.
signed somebody, Dave. We've signed somebody last minute.
Have we?
Wolves are set to. Steve Madeley's just announced it. Wolves are set to sign defender Alfie Pond from Exeter for £500,000. He cancelled a loan at Yeovil to move to Molineux, but one for the under-21s at this stage. So there you go.
One for the under-21s. That's fair enough.
Lovely, jubbly.
He'll probably be
we haven't
replaced.
asked Steve. Steve obviously joined us late, and he keeps popping off because he keeps entering tunnels, I think.
Manny.
Well, that's
Manny.
why we've got to obviously summarise
With
everything.
all of the big multi-million-pound deals going on, that's a bit of a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
$500,000. That's like, how much were you paid, Mel, back in the day?
No, drop in the ocean. Who we just signed?
Yeah, it is.
Alfie
Pond. Very good.
Come on.
Oh, man,
Stay
it's too
awake,
late,
Manny.
honestly,
Stay
too
awake,
late.
Manny. It's a bit late for you, son. Come on.
You don't miss anything, does he, Mel? He really
Oh,
doesn't
Mel.
miss anything.
No wonder you're on the radio, Mel. Trust me.
Well, I'll tell you what, you could do stand-up, mate. You're so funny.
He probably does.
Very quick.
Steve, your opinions on the transfer window,
I have
how
to,
it's gone, Wolves' business, and now it's ended. I think we're all happy that it's ended, and we can just draw a line.
Yeah.
And how we go on Saturday. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're all happy it's ended, just because the speculation gets a bit much at some point. But so now at least Bruno Lage knows where he stands. I've said this before that when I interviewed him last night, which wasn't far off, about 25 hours ago now, because he was quite late coming out. Like when I interviewed him last night, he said about needing time and patience, and he needs to work with these players because he didn't have a season. He's been backed at the end of the day. I think a month ago there was pressure on Fosun. A month ago the pressure was on Fosun, but they've backed him. They've broken the club record again. Mateus Nunes, great signing. Guedes, yet to see his full potential, I think. But brought in a striker as well. I think he wanted a defender, but we haven't got that. That's the one missing piece, I guess. Just an extra defender as a bit of backup. But generally, Fosun have backed him, and now, as I say, Bruno Lage last night was saying to me that we need time, we need patience. This was from the fans. We need time, we need patience. We need to work on the team. We need to work on the training pitch. Because they weren't here in pre-season, blah blah blah. But the crucial thing now is that the pressure was on Fosun a month ago. Now it's on Bruno Lage. 5 points in 36 is not good enough, and no wins in 12 is not good enough. So now he's been backed. He can't have any complaints. And time and patience is great, but you need wins to build up time and patience. You need wins as well. And that has to start on Saturday. I mean, yes, these players might not be gelling yet, but yeah, I'm not saying time's running out, but yeah, they need to get some wins on the board.
They need to give us that belief back, don't they? That's what it is. We need that belief back.
Yeah,
I think one thing we're looking forward to on Saturday, when's the last time Wolves signed a centre forward, like a proper centre forward, so a box man? And I think that always raises excitement. So even though we're on a bit of a downer and we haven't won a match, I think we really need to be on the front foot. And I've just put tweet out just now about the team and the crowd, and because it is a must-win game. Let's be honest. We don't like to call it a must-win because it adds more pressure on it. But we need to, all of us, really be singing from that and cheer that new striker, give him a warm welcome, get him in there, throw some balls into him, get some crosses in as well, get down to the bylines, front foot, intention, and we can still turn it around. We've got some quality players there on the pitch.
I still think
he's going to start though.
Man, I really hope he does, honestly, because I just think because people have suddenly got a downer on Raul. You've seen it on social media, and Raul.
I think it's
yesterday.
more Manny. The fact I don't think people have got a downer on Raul because we want him to do well.
He hasn't returned back to the way he should. Yeah.
He's just completely lost confidence, and I can tell you you can see it in his body language and everything. I was watching it last night. I just watch it on the TV. Steve was there. He's got a better idea, but his body language was just he was just consigned to the fact that he was going to get left out because they bought somebody to not to replace him as such, but another centre forward, a proper centre forward basically. And he's just not. He's probably frustrated with himself, and I know this because after I'd ruptured my Achilles, I was never the same player, so I could never do what I wanted. I knew that I could do because my body wouldn't let me. And he's having the same challenge because he's not being able to do what he knows that he should be doing, and it's not happening for him. And it's so frustrating, and we all want him to do well.
That is the reason. That's the reason I say that, Mel, because if he does play again and he then misses a chance or does something then the crowd, because of that feeling, think, oh, here we go again. So and plus because we haven't scored for so long, we haven't looked like scoring in no striker positions, especially.
Well, it's a decision.
We need to provide a boost for everybody, and then we've signed this guy, and we need to use him, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are the decisions, and they'll make a decision on fitness levels, and the way that they want to play, and that's ultimately what Bruno gets paid to do. Because a lot of people who don't understand the game will look from outside and says, well, what does the manager do? Everybody picks their own team, so they should pick there, but they don't see what's going on with the players during the week. They don't see exactly what's going on, so that he makes the decision. Yeah, I feel right about so and so because he's really up for it, and he's gonna make a difference. That's why he's put somebody in, as opposed to when people see the team, think, oh, I'd have had so and so in, but so and so might have picked up a little bit of a knock in training, not serious enough to stop him being on the bench, but that's why the manager's done it. But there's little things that we don't know as unless you're on the inside of the club, that you don't know why he makes certain decisions. But it depends whether he, as you say, whether he starts with him or he'll certainly be on the bench and then he brings him on. I think that'll depend on his on how they assess him fitness wise.
I'll tell you what, guys, it's like 11:15. Me and Manny's been on right from the start. I'm impressed, mate. We're going to stop.
Well, he's a marathon runner.
He's
used to it.
My beard was black when this transfer window started.
I just want to go round and ask everyone to sum up in one sentence the transfer window and the signing of the window. And I'm going to start with young Liam.
So one sentence to sum it up.
And signing of the window.
I'd say quality, not quantity, really, is the main thing, I'd say, because we've obviously lost a lot of players, but we've brought in quality. But signing of the summer, there's a couple. You could say Nunes or Guedes. I'm going to say Collins, actually. I'm going to say Collins. I think he's a solid defender. We've needed that defender that can play in that back four, and he's came in and he's done exactly that.
Fantastic, Liam. Josh?
Solid transfer window. Now over to the players and Bruno, and let's just get behind the boys.
And your signing?
I'm gonna do what Liam said. I'm gonna go with Collins. I would go Nunes, but from what I've seen of Collins so far, partly because I think he had the pre-season as well, I think he's fitted right into that back four.
And I'm going to ask both you and Liam and everyone else as well. Can you rate the transfer window out of 10, please? And everyone in the chat, can you rate it out of 10 as well?
I'd probably give it a 7. I think if we've signed that centre-back, and we still could with that free agent Belgian defender, if we signed the centre-back, it would be more, but yeah, I'd say 7.
Okay, Josh?
I'll probably go an 8. But like Liam says, mine would still stay on 8 if Denayer comes in. But I would have liked to have had Craig Dawson.
Yeah. Lucy?
I think mine would be Collins as well. From watching him on that pitch, he's well up for it. He's a team player. He riles the fans up the same as Cody used to, which I used to love. I'd really rate Collins. I really do. And my sentence would be: keep the faith. We're always Wolves. We always will be. They're our team, and they're our boys.
100%. Steve?
I think the sentence is, as I just reached your recorder, I think it's impressive because Bruno's been bagged. As I say, a month ago everyone was having a pop at Fosun, but they put I suppose a better sentence, they put the money where their mouth is. You know, They have actually backed him, so we can't have a go at that. I agree with Collins in the sense that he's a ready-made player. He was, Premier League, and he slotted straight in. But I do think give him time, and I think Matheus Nunes is going to be absolute quality. I think he's had a couple of unfair digs in the last couple of games, but I think the Newcastle game he was kept on for longer than he should have been, because let's face it, 2 weeks ago he was playing in the Portugal League for Sporting Lisbon, and up until he got took off at Bournemouth last night, he played every single minute. So I think we've got to give him time, but what I've seen so far, there is definitely a quality player. I'm not sure whether he's a 4, an 8, a 10, or what position he plays in, because he's everywhere, but I actually quite like him. I like that. So I think it will be Matheus Nunes. Give him time.
Fantastic. Mane?
Yeah, so sentence changing of the guard. So many players that brought us up, kept us in the Premier League, took us to Europe and Wembley and everything, all that, and they've all gone now. A lot of them are gone, but we've kept the king, Neves. Nobody would have thought that. So for that, this transfer window is a 9, not a 6 or a 7. This is a 9. We've kept Ruben Neves. Then we've added somebody Pep Guardiola calls one of the best midfielders in the world. Pep's not a stupid person. This guy was linked with Liverpool, Man City, and a lot of clubs. So Wolves, to get him to play alongside Neves in one window, you keep the best midfielder you got, and you added another one that's of similar quality. That is an unbelievable achievement. So that should not be downplayed. We've got a striker in in the same window, and we've also got Guedes, and we got our centre back that we've been trying to sign for many windows. So apart from the strength in depth at centre back position, which Craig Dawson would have provided today, that would have pretty much made the perfect window, I think, if we'd have got Craig Dawson in. So changing of the guard is my sentence, and it's like, it is work in progress, and we hope. But my signing, I'm not going to say Collins, I'm going to agree with Steve, is Matthias Nunes. 3 times he's got in the box against Spurs, against Newcastle, and then very early against Bournemouth, where he hit the crossbar. And he got in those positions and pretty much probably should have had 3 goals in those 3 opportunities with a bit of luck. So I like that, and we've missed that from midfield. Moutinho and Neves aren't the type of players that will break from midfield to join the attacker. So given time, I think he's going to be an absolute quality player for us. And so, yeah, let's hope. There's lots and lots of concern. Of course, there are. Where we are is not nice. We've got some tough games coming, but a win can change things. And Saturday, that's why, on the front foot, everybody needs to be singing from the same hymn sheet from the first minute to the last. Play it like a cup final almost, and win the damn game. Bring the 3 points, climb out the table, and then, don't fear the others.
Liverpool and City.
Go again, yeah, that's right.
Mel, for you?
I was told by some very astute Stoke City fans, and they said an absolutely wonderful signing, Nathan Collins. They said he is quality, and they're right, by the way. I like Nunes, I like Guedes. I haven't seen enough of this big Sasa Kalacic, however you pronounce it, but I'm looking forward to that, because we do need a goal scorer. We need more goals in the team. They need to work at stuff to free the players to get into positions to score goals. And this is what I'm not seeing. I'm not sure what they're doing on the training ground. I'm really not. I'm being constructively I'm constructively criticizing them in the fact that they don't get in enough positions to miss chances for me. But having said that, Nunes does. He gets in really good positions. So I'm sure that the goals will come from him. I'd love them to come from Sasha. I'd love the one big thing. I'd love Raul to start scoring again. And then we've got a real chance, because we're looking good. We're more positive going forward. We've got we've got options in the team.
Mel, did you ever have any fancy celebrations back in the day?
Fancy celebrations? Nah.
Not the chocolates. I'm on about what Raul does.
No, we didn't do all that. We didn't.
You didn't want to be a pirate with a parrot and a.
No.
I reckon the manager would give you a good.
The only one that we had was the best one we had was John Burridge coming out dressed as Superman before the games in front of the North Bank. Was absolutely legendary. It knocks absolute spots off anything they do nowadays with all these fancy little kind of and all this business. I mean,
did Budgie tell you he was doing it, or was it a surprise on the day?
It was surprise on the day. Nobody knew. He just got on there, and then he just comes out. Because all the rest of the lads, because he came out early before we came out, and he just got back. Come out and see Budge. He just got it all on, dressed up, and then he probably put some of it on outside in the when he just got outside the dressing room or whatever, and just kind of put all the stuff on, and then he just went out.
He was a character when he.
Oh, he was. He was. 1 second. Sorry, I'm getting told off for shouting in my own house.
Naughty boy.
I know. Can you keep your voice down? Anyway, but he was that brilliant, Budgie. He'd tell jokes, but of course his jokes weren't that good. But he just laughed so much his own jokes. We were laughing at Budgie, laughing at his own jokes. But he thought the jokes were funny. But then he also, he was that funny, and that's that much of a character but he also was a super professional. Nobody trained as hard as Budgie to get himself in the best condition and the best goalkeeper he could be for somebody that wasn't 6'4", 6'5", because the goalkeepers nowadays you've got to be minimum 6'4" to play in the Premier League. You won't see anybody probably less than 6'2", 6'3" minimum. He was only 5'10", 5'11".
He wasn't very big. Anyway,
he wasn't 6 foot, and yet he was so professional. He made himself the best he could be. So you have to admire that. And anybody watching him, see him train. He just trained he could out-train anybody. But on the other hand, you'd got that side of him. On the other side of him, there was that you got the white van outside. The men in white coats had come to take him away because he was that blooming off the wall, that side, so professional. But he was always on the edge,
and that's what made him.
And that's what made him such an absolutely wonderful character, because he was so professional on the one hand, but as mad as a March hare on the other.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been an absolutely epic show. I mean, Mel, we need to just get you on just for your stories. For we could do literally, seriously, we could do podcast just on your stories alone, mate. Absolutely brilliant. It is coming up to 3 hours 40. Manny, unbelievable stint, mate. Marathon. Josh, you were there at the beginning as well. Lucy at the beginning, you hopped on, come back. Liam, you're a legend in the making. You following in your footsteps of your dad. Didn't realise your dad was Paul Berry, so fantastic. That's why you write so well. And Mel, thank you so much for coming on again.
Liam, well done. It was a wonderful tribute to Pat Quirk that your dad did.
No, I'll let him know.
Yeah, just tell him from me. It was really appreciate that. Because I know Pat very well, and wonderful character, wonderful chap. And I think you were just about to say, Dave, that I've just been an impact sub that's come on late.
You've made a difference, and we need someone like you to put the ball in the back of the net. Guys and girls in the chat, wherever you are watching in the world, thank you so much. We've had like over 200 for watching live for most of the show. We've had lots of banter going on in the chat. You've been getting involved. We've introduced Spin the Wheel. That might come back for future things as well, because that seemed quite funny. And we've had some amazing guests. Thanks to everyone that's taken the time to come on. Transfer window, deadline day. Wolves have kept Ruben Neves. They've kept Pedro Neto. We've got in some amazing signings, like you said, one backup defender maybe, but we've got a great squad. And let's hope that Bruno can get these guys playing and scoring goals on Saturday for his sake.
Oh, have you said that as well? The tweet.
I think it's been announced, the new signing.
Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
You stayed long enough for it.
A new man from Mali. Welcome, Boubacar Traoré.
I think that means we're going to have to do a video on that in the morning.
It's just about 8 seconds long. They haven't. It's obviously a last minute thing. So.
Can I just say something just quickly? Dave, thank you so much for putting this on tonight. You've done a fantastic job. And Emma, in the background, you both.
Emma does all the hard work. Emma does. Does all the hard work.
She does. You're both fantastic. Thank you so much.
She might, she's a legend, and she coordinates so much behind the scenes. Guys, thanks ever so much for jumping on. Manny, I'll obviously see you on court in the morning anyway.
We're playing tennis at 10 o'clock in about 10 hours time.
I've got the gym class at 6:30.
Man, I was supposed to be at the gym in the morning as well. I think I might give that a nickname.
I'm having a lie-in. I haven't got work, so I'm having a lie-in.
Good night and God bless to everyone.
Yeah, thank you
Night,
for joining, everybody.
Thank
All
you.
right.